didn't realize we had quorum. Tonight is what's tonight?
I'm just going to wait for Doug to get off the phone. I call to order the special Riviera Beach CRA board meeting. Today is October 8th, and the time is 6:04 p.m. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Miller-Anderson, Commissioner McCoy, Commissioner Lanier,
Shirley? She was here.
Vice Chair Lawson.
We don't have a quorum. Sorry.
She can't make it before.
She can't make a quorum remotely?
I thought he relaxed his executive.
Yeah, he did.
He did, but
allowed
she's
for
not
it to
answering.
continue for one more month.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
She's the problem is she didn't answer.
All right. Well, she answers.
She was on the phone a minute ago.
Hello?
Ah, good. You're here. Commissioner Lanier?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Lawson,
Present.
Chair Botel,
Here.
also present Jonathan Evans, Interim Executive Director, Michael Haygood, General Counsel, and Tamara Sagan, CRA Clerk.
Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Lawson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Any person who would like to speak on an agenda item, please complete a pink public comment card located outside on the table and give it to the staff prior to the item being taken up by the Riviera Beach Commission. For discussion, members of the public will be given a total of 3 minutes to speak on all items listed on the consent agenda and 3 minutes to speak on each regular agenda item. The time limit for public comments may be reduced by a vote of the Commission based on the voluminous nature of public comment cards. In no event will anyone be allowed to submit a comment card to speak on an agenda item after the resolution is read and the item considered. Do we have any disclosures by Commission? Do we have any disclosures by Commission members or staff? Would anyone care to take any? Well, there's only one item on the agenda. Could I ask for a motion to accept the agenda?
Motion to accept agenda.
We need a second, Commissioner Lanier, to accept the agenda. Commissioner Lanier, we need a second to accept the agenda.
I am here and I hear you, and I'm not giving the motion a second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Lanier,
No.
Vice Chair Lawson,
Yes.
Chair Botel.
Yes.
That motion carries with Commissioner Lanier dissenting.
Let the record show that Commissioner McCoy has joined us. Since you're in time for the vote, Commissioner McCoy, we're voting to accept the agenda. How do you vote?
McCoy.
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment cards?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We have no consent agenda, so we can move right to regular business, item number 1.
Fhfc Proposals.
Madam Chair and members of the board, this item before you this evening is to talk about 2 projects that the City of Riviera Beach CRA is excited to bring forward for your consideration. You will hear a presentation from Ms. Anita Jenkins to speak how the process is to be carried through with the state and what is happening this evening, as well as the work that staff has put forth as it relates to the projects that you will be hearing this evening. Obviously, we are going to ask for direction from the board to proceed forward with selecting one of these projects so we can be able to provide the resolution necessary so one of these 2 entities can pursue the program through the state as it relates to low-income housing tax credits. So at this time, Ms. Jenkins is going to make a presentation followed by the one of the entities that are here to present.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Good evening, Chair Botel and commissioners and other members of the public who are here. This evening, we're very fortunate to have before us two projects that are seeking a loan or grant as a demonstration of local government commitment to their projects. This will maximize the applicant's score for an allocation of low-income housing tax credits with Florida Housing Finance Corporation. This support is critical to these projects. In a memo outlined by Mr. Evans on September 25th, we put forth a process that we think will allow you to make a decision for one of these projects. The subsidy chosen will be conditioned upon the award of tax credits to either of these groups for the development of the proposed number of units of housing affordable to residents with incomes of not more than 80% of area median income, and our commitment will not be dispersed until closing of the entire transaction. The two projects are Berkeley Landing and Island View Apartments. Island View Apartments is a proposed new development located at 2525 Broadway near the Park Manor neighborhood. This development will add $30.5 million in development value on a property currently assessed at a little bit more than $880,000. We project that it will generate an estimated $257,786 in ad valorem tax revenue. Florida Housing Finance Corporation's low-income housing tax credit program is among the most competitive in the country, and the most sophisticated developers are interested in maximizing the likelihood for success as the pursuit of such funding is costly. The second project is Berkeley Landing. Berkeley Landing is a proposed new development adjacent also to the Park Manor neighborhood of Riviera Beach. This proposed development will also add approximately $30.5 million in development value on a property currently assessed at $970,000. The project will generate an estimated $256,786 of ad valorem tax revenue. This project is consistent with the goals and objectives of our adopted CRA plan. Staff has reviewed it and has identified the need to bring new residential housing to the city. The project is located within the Blue Heron North area and provides that as the area develops, a wide mix of housing should be included. Just a little bit about low-income housing tax credits. They are the nation's and the state's best tool for the delivery and financing of rental housing for working families. Since 1986, housing tax credits have provided critical financing for more than 3.23 million rental homes. Note that housing tax credit properties have an average vacancy rate of 4.2% compared to 10.6% in the overall rental market. Foreclosures have occurred in less than 1% of all low-income housing tax credit properties since 1986, better than all other classes of real estate. Tonight, you'll hear presentations from both developers. For the Island View Apartments, we have representatives of the HTG Group. For Berkeley Landing, we have the Wendover Pinnacle Group. The format will be as outlined in Mr. Evans' letter of September 25th. We will have 1 hour total for the HTG Group. They'll do their presentation. The commission will have an opportunity to ask questions. At the end of that hour, the HTG Group will leave the room and we'll bring in the Pinnacle Wendover Group, which has been sequestered during this process, and we'll repeat it. At the end of the second presentation, we'll have both groups in the room, and the commission will be able to ask questions of both groups. And at the end of that questioning period, we ask that you deliberate, And staff is requesting the Board of Commissioners to approve our request to provide a grant or loan to either Berkeley Landing or Island View Apartments, and either to Wendover Pinnacle or HTG to construct a new residential community on Broadway as outlined in the proposals that we presented to you. And be reminded that the award is contingent upon the receipt of low-income housing tax credits. The project is consistent with the goals and objectives of our adopted CRA plan. And just to clarify, we have two fine proposals before us, and we're very fortunate to have them seeking to make an investment in our city. But a local government can only support one project for this allocation of funding. And with that, we'll turn it over to the HTG group to present Island View Apartments, and you have 1 hour total. So if you will begin.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Brian Finney. Is this on? Okay. My name is Brian Finney, and I am the Vice President Developer of the Housing Trust Group. But I'd like to introduce members of our team before I continue. To my left is Jason Larson. He's the Vice President of Development for HTG, as well as at the far end is our strategic partner, Mr. Ron Davis, who's the President of Mosner Group. We are the team that will manage the day-to-day activities of the redevelopment of Island View. And I want to emphasize this fact.
I just want to interrupt you very briefly. Let the record show that Commissioner Miller Anderson and the mayor are on the dais. Thank you. Go ahead.
I want to emphasize the fact that the three people in this room make all day-to-day decisions on this project. We are responsible for the budgeting. We are responsible for the financing. We are responsible for selection of the contractors. We are responsible for the checks. Now, the reality of it is, if a project does well, it's a great deal done by the Housing Trust Group. If the project does not perform well, it's a responsibility of Jason and Brian Finney. So that goes to territory. I'm going to go through our presentation pretty quickly so you can ask some questions. But just a quick overview, if I can, oh, it's not working. All right. Next slide? No? Okay, then I'll just do it manually until we catch up. The Housing Trust Group, just to the bottom line, we have over 25,000 units of affordable housing, primarily most in the state of Florida. Our occupancy rates average a little bit north of 98%. We're very comfortable with the state of Florida. And our mission is to provide without compromise the highest quality multifamily residential communities in a professional environment and ethical manner. This is very important because if you've taken a look at our projects, and we do have a project, we have a project in River Beach, you will notice that we have a market rate product. The same product that you would rent and build on one section of the city is the same project that we build wherever we go. So we're pretty proud of that, and that is our mission. Our ultimate mission is when people walk into a community, we are very excited when folks say, well, what is that? And we'll say, that's affordable housing. People say, that's affordable housing? And yes, because we build a quality product. Now, I'd like to bring up Jason Larson, who will talk to you more about the project location and some details about the mechanics of the project. Please.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's Jason Larson, Vice President with Housing Trust Group. So this development is to be located at 2525 Broadway Boulevard, which is across from the shopping center, which used to contain the Family Dollar. It was a trailer park at one time, and had in the mid-2000s, a developer that had purchased it for development has cleared the trailers off when there was a financial crisis and a foreclosure, and then it was sold by a bank to a group that is very keen on doing redevelopment and wants to see the Broadway corridor redeveloped. And we're fortunate enough to have them as a partner on the development. So we're proposing new construction, garden-style buildings, 3 stories, which is what the current code allows for, 110 units, 26 one-bedrooms, 58 two-bedrooms, and 26 three-bedrooms. So our project design you can see there. The site plan that you see in the upper left-hand corner is really more of a density study. What we do is when we get the site, we come up with a concept. We want to make sure that everything will fit on the site with the required parking and the building constraints. What we'll do is, if we're funded, we're going to work with staff very closely. We'll bring in Wampman Group, who we worked with on the Heron Estates development as planner and engineer, and we're going to work with the community on the overall layout of the site plan, and we're going to work with this body, and we'd be happy to come in and do workshops and community meetings on building layouts and things like that. We've got some proposed elevations here, 3-story garden apartments with a clubhouse, full range of amenities, multi-purpose room in the clubhouse with a fitness room, resort-style swimming pool, playground, computer room. We'll have a outdoor grill area, professional on-site management. We'll have washer and dryer hookups in every unit, open floor plans, and we've got full-size Energy Star appliances, as well as other green building features. And the building will have an NGBS, which is a National Green Building Standards silver level. So we'll offer some resident services for the folks that are living there, literacy programs, employment assistance programs. We've got financial management programs. Now we're also going to do what we call our homeowner opportunities program, where if a resident signs up, we will set aside 5% of the resident's monthly rent in an account for them that when they move out, we'll have a vesting period, probably about a year, but it will accrue as long as they're a resident of the property, and when they move out, we will give them funds for down payment on a single-family house or a townhouse or a condo. And then we'll also do computer training in our computer lab. So our resident income mix. So we're going to have a range of incomes. We're going to have 17 units for folks earning as little as 30% of the AMI. The bulk of the units will be at 60% of the AMI, but we'll also have some 70% AMI units, 31 of those, and then some 80% AMI units, 10 of those. And those higher AMI units are really, what we refer to as workforce, especially the 80% AMI units. You could have, teachers and firefighters that will qualify for those units. So a good mix of incomes. We can go to the next slide. Oh, our monthly rent limits. It's a little small for me to read, but let me pull up my.
So while he's talking.
Oh, yeah. So the monthly rent limits, to give you an idea. So these are based on the current 2020 rent schedules, and the way it works is the based on the area median income. The rent is 30% of those, what they call the area median income groups, so that folks aren't rent burdened. But we could have units on the one bedroom from $494 at the 30%, up to $1,318 on the 80% units, and then on the 2-bedroom as low as $593, and up to $1,582 on the 80% 2 bedrooms, And then on the 3 bedrooms, as low as $685, and then up to $1,827 on the 3 bedroom 80% set aside units. You go next slide. You want to do the next one? All right.
I want to go back, and I just want to I want to further emphasize a point that Jason made. This home ownership initiative that we're linking to this project is significant because we're going to set aside money. We're going to match it. We're going to set aside money and help people transition from rental to home ownership. The theme of what we're doing on this project, the theme is going to be sustainability. The theme is going to be transitioning to ownership. That's a theme of this initiative that we'd like to expand further in the future, but I'll get back to this. I'll talk more about this theme later. But what you see in front of you now is a list of projects that we've done. Luna Trails in Titusville, fantastic 3-story structure, 100% occupied, done in 2020. Twin Lakes Phase 1, completed in 2019, 99% occupied. That's a joint venture with the Housing Trust Group and the Lakeland Housing Authority. Fantastic project. We're actually doing 3 phases, Phase 1 and Phase 2. Phase 1 is complete, Phase 2 is under construction. Hopefully we'll get Phase 3 done in the next year or so. Osprey Point, again, another project, completed in 2020, 100% occupied. What that all shows is that we have the capacity to work on multiple projects simultaneously and get them done, and get them done well. Now, what we have here, and I hope you can see this, is a site plan for Heron Estates. It says Heron Estates family, but it just should say Heron Estates. And I want to talk about this. 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I drove by a site in Riviera Beach that was about 16 acres and it was vacant. And I said, what is that? And I talked to my development team, and what they basically said is, it's difficult to do business in Riviera Beach. You can probably go somewhere else and get more done quicker. I didn't understand that. As a former city manager of a city, and a former city manager of a difficult city, I couldn't understand what they were talking about. And I got together with Ron Davis, and I called Ron, and I said, Ron, I want to do something in Riviera Beach. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to partner with you, and I want to go after this project called Heron Estates with the Housing Authority up there. Can we do it? We had a meeting with the Housing Authority, and after several months of discussions, we all agreed to move forward and move this project forward. No one thought we could do it. No one. The naysayers were all over the place. But if you look at that site plan now, it calls for a senior building with 101 units, and it calls for 79 townhomes or garden-style structures. That site plan is real. The 101 unit seniors development is built and it's high quality. And yesterday, we closed on our financing for the 79 units. So construction starts on those 79 units. Those construction will start next week. I think I just talked to Jason a few minutes ago. He's already ordered the checks that we have to bring to the city to get our permits. So that's not a fantasy, that's not a dream, that's something that's real and that's tangible, and it's within a stone's throw of what we want to do in Island, in Island View. I won't bore you with, it's a $30 million project. Our leverage is good, and we have the wherewithal. We're going to build 110 units, a $30 million project. We're looking for a local government area opportunity request of $640,000. And we are looking not for a grant. We intend to borrow this money and pay it back over 15 years. So we're not looking for a grant. We want to borrow, we want to pay it back. But this project is not about sticks and bricks. We can build units. In fact, the easiest thing about a project is building it. The hardest element of a project is pre-development, is getting it financed, and most importantly, trying to find a way to make an investment that enhances the people who live in that community and get them involved in this project. What we're doing now on this project is we're finding a way to link private sector investment to meaningful redevelopment activities by people in those communities on this project. Now, Mr. Davis, can you please, our minority partner? And just let me say for the record that Mr. Davis is our partner. And I want to be very clear on this. A lot of consultants get a monthly stipend. Ron's compensation is based on success because he invests his time into the project. So he's an equity player in this deal. In all our deals, that's what we try to do. But our ultimate goal in this project, make no mistake, our goal is to establish a prime contractor joint venture with the Riviera Beach local contractor. Let me say that again. A prime contractor joint venture. What that means is that a local contractor will be an owner of the construction of this project. We're saying it on record. This joint venture will work with the city, as I've had discussions with the city, to establish a procurement process that will do more than just looking at subcontractors to work on the project. We also, with $30 million, we're going to spend millions of dollars on supplies. We're going to make sure those supplies are purchased on a competitive basis from businesses in the city. We're going to identify a process to identify unskilled laborers. And I have a contract, and we are under negotiating right now with the local labor unions. We have a contract. The union has agreed, and I'll probably drop it if I pull it out. But we have a contract with the local labor union, and they've agreed to help us find and train unskilled laborers for our project. So we've got boots on the ground right now because we're doing Heron Estates family. Although this project is about Island View, we're also establishing our labor force on a project that's about to start next week. I want to get back to the most important part of this project. Our local contractor will be a partner in this deal and will own 1/3 of the joint venture. This takes the whole concept. People will say, well, what's your minority set aside? What are your goals? What's this? What's that? That's good. But that is a ceiling. That's a ceiling. When you become an owner, the ceiling is gone. If we keep on playing this game about ceilings, we will end up where we've always been, on the outside looking in. We want to set a precedent here, and my team at HTG, most importantly, the owners of the company, when I briefed them on what we wanted to do, they gave me 100% for what I'm saying here today to you. Ron, would you, David, please bail me out here, Ron.
Thank you, Brian, and good evening, members of the CRA board. I'm Ron Davis. I know all of you from my prior work experience, both here in the city as well as in the private sector, and it's a pleasure for me to discuss with you tonight what we're proposing to do with the city of Riviera Beach, and it'll be the first time it's been proposed. Brian and I met with the city manager a couple of months or more ago to respond to the city's desire to better utilize its local contractors. In that proposal, we talked about the possibility of using local prime contractors, minority. We talked about the level of minority subcontractor participation. And so the model we proposed, we are now in the process of implementing that model, demonstrating how all the slots are filled. We have a team that's going to be highly competitive. My firm, Mosner Group, minority-owned firm, is a co-development partner with HTG, and I'm very pleased with that opportunity. And this is not the first project I've worked with HTG on. Also, now we're coming forth to the city with a joint venture to have a local minority contractor, prime contractor, involved in the project. And we have, like to say, and pleased to say, that we'll be utilizing and working with All-Site Construction, with Ezra Sappho as the principal of that firm. I'm not sure Ezra is out of town, but I think his son may be here. Oh, they're representatives of All-Site. They will be working with, they'll be an owner of the project, a 1/3 owner of the project as the local joint venture partner to build the project along with the rest of our team. We also will have people, reputable firms here locally, such as Brown Electric or Greener to Greener, Wesley, minority contractors. We've wrapped our arms around them already. Working with Ezra and All-Site, we're going to identify and bring in additional local minority contractors into this project. So therefore, we'll not only have a local general contractor as a prime, we'll also have local subcontractors. We'll be bringing activity to the city at a level that's never been achieved before. As a minority business myself, I am extremely pleased with the progress that we're demonstrating. We committed to City Manager Evans that we're going to try to do this in response to the council's desire to have a way to elevate minority contractors and participation in this city and have input into that process. So that's where we are. We are committed to that. We've been taking progressive, affirmative actions to make that process come into fruition. We also, as Brian mentioned, working with local labor unions as well as doing community outreach regarding this project. So I think that we've established a new bar, that no one has met the standards that we're establishing in this project. I think all of you we have to admit to that no one has ever been able to do this. We think that it's a good thing for the city, and we're very proud of the opportunity to work with you.
In closing, I just want to revisit one more issue. The idea, and I'd like to thank the council, the idea for this project, this idea for the strategy came from you. We had a briefing on the Riviera Beach Housing Authority, and in that briefing, we were challenged as to how we could work with the city to develop a meaningful program to link local residents to development in the city. Based on that discussion and that challenge, we developed this initiative. I'd like to thank you for giving us the time to present before you, and I appreciate you all taking the time to listen to us and looking to move forward. And by the way, I have a signed agreement with All-Site Construction, which is a letter of interest for a joint venture. I will give that signed document to the clerk for public review if necessary, if that's okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the commission?
Yes, Madam Chair.
You're recognized, Mr. Lawson.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the presentation and the interest to continue to work with the city. I'm very excited about the project, and I just wanted to address a few topics that you guys have outlined for us. The home ownership program. You stated that the funds will be a match, 1-for-1, for what they contribute out of that 5%?
5% of their rent will be matched by us, 1-for-1. Yes, sir.
How long of a time frame?
Well, at least we haven't finalized it yet, but we at least want the tenant to be there for 1 year. But after 1 year, you get vested, and so on 1 year plus 30 days, if you leave,
the 13th month, they can take the
yes, sir,
the vested interest to use as a down payment.
Yes, sir.
If they decide to move and they don't purchase a home, do you still vest the money?
That's a good question. I don't know. We're going to have to work that out. Okay. The assumption is that if they decide to move, they will be able to take their contribution. Mm-hmm. We have to figure out what we're going to do with our contribution.
Okay. If they're just not prepared to purchase at that time. So understanding that if they're not prepared at that 13th month to purchase and they decide that they want to buy another year from then, 2 years from that time frame, the funds that you are matching, just want to know if that's still going to be contributed to a down payment or if that's not going to be actually.
I think that we will be, and I hate to use this phrase because it gets off, we'll be liberal with, no, we will be pragmatic with the use of our funds, and they will have access to the use of their funds.
Okay. Does that purchase have to be in the city of Riviera Beach, or is that just for home ownership anywhere that they move to?
It can be anywhere. Our tax credits are federal tax credits. We couldn't prohibit that.
Okay. Next question is the equity partnership. One of the things I do love about this presentation is that you've used a model that I've studied. Maynard Jackson from Atlanta, former mayor, created a program of equity home ownership versus something called jobs or paychecks.
Maynard?
Maynard Jackson.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
So this is a model that I'd love to see, because the disparities that we've seen in the community can't just be addressed in regards to jobs and handouts to individuals. Disparity study is only going to address kind of the equity that's being spent, but the ownership is something that we have to start to address. So I'm very appreciative that ownership within this project is going to minority local businesses. So I wanted to get a little bit more information in regards to the ownership shares of how that's going to relate to Mr. Ron Davis and the organizations All-Site, and then some of the subcontractors that are here as well. Are they going to have ownership, or are they just going to be subs within the project? How does that work?
The only entity that will be an owner will be All-Site Construction.
Okay.
All-Site Construction will own 1/3 of the construction JV. We expect the total construction cost to be a little bit around $15 to $16 million of a $30 million project.
How do we guarantee that that percentage will trickle down to our subs?
No, we're not going to guarantee that, because what happens is, we can't guarantee that, because what happens is that All-Site will sit down in the joint venture and determine the scope of the project. Now, the scope of the project could be a roof. A roof could cost $1 million. Landscaping could cost $200,000. So contractors, subcontractors will be paid to install a roof. So you get paid for the work you do on the roof. You're not a partner. See what I'm saying?
So how do we confirm that they will use local participation? Because All-Site is just one organization. Our goal is to make multi-millionaires here in our community out of the projects that we're creating. So just one organization benefited versus a majority of the subs. I need some type of reassurance. I know that you can't, but we need some type of reassurance, because All-Site can say they're going to do something. I'm pretty confident in Mr. Ezra Saffel to do what he says he's going to do. But before we just issue these bonds and allow for this project to go out, we need to be confident that our businesses are going to be supported in the community. So how do we get some type of reassurance?
And let me take a step back.
Yes, sir.
All-Site will be an owner of the construction JV. That's over here. All-Site will work on a JV to identify the subcontractors who work on the project.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, for instance, our landscaping contract will be around $250,000. We'll give that contract. We've already identified. We know where we want where that contract goes. So that landscaping organization will get that contract. That's a pretty big deal for a small contractor. Our cement contract. What you're asking is difficult to do, because we have, when we do our project cost, we have to submit our budget to Florida Housing. Florida Housing takes a look at our budget, and they look at each line item, and they say your budget is too high, your budget is too low. So our budget is scrutinized by Florida Housing, but our subs get paid off of the budget item. So I can't say to a sub, I'm going to make sure that you get 1/3 of the project profits, when the item that you work on could be 5% of the total project cost. Can you follow me?
I understand construction and development. I understand the process, and it's not difficult to do. Our responsibility is to guarantee and ensure that we're going to impact the community. And how we do that is demanding that it's done. So the bottom dollar has to be done to where at least 1/3, and I appreciate the 30% going to these organizations, but we have to find a way to make sure we're impacting these small businesses, these minority businesses, and these women businesses in the community.
Are you suggesting that 1/3 of the contract should be minority contracts?
I'm sorry?
Are you suggesting that 1/3 of the contract should go to minorities?
Well, that's what we're looking for, a equity share, an equity share which you've already brought in with a local and minority participation. So with your local participation, you've brought in Ezra Sappho as a third owner, correct?
As a third owner of the joint venture. There's only one joint venture.
So
There's no other joint
he's a
venture.
local and minority contractor, correct, or partner, actually?
He's out of the contractor mode right now. He's
He's
a joint.
a local equity owner.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what we're looking for is a percentage to make sure that our local businesses are impacted as well. Out of that third of a contract, or out of what percentage that we can use local. So the next question is going to be the supplies, because you did mention the supplies will be purchased from the city. What percentage of supplies will be purchased from businesses here in the city?
As much as possible. We don't have a threshold. We're going to sit down with the city and put together a list of who we're going to target as much as possible.
Okay. If approved, when will we project for ground to break?
If I can use Heron Estates family as a model, usually it's 12 months after approval that we start construction.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
You're recognized, Commissioner Miller
Good
Anderson.
evening. With the home ownership, so if a tenant continues to live there for 2-3 years before they buy their home, you all will continue to match them for that
Yes.
amount of years?
Yes, ma'am.
So there's no limit on the amount of years that you'll continue
Yes,
to
ma'am.
match? And then you said when they get ready to leave, you would give them their 5% back if they don't
The
decide to
scenario
purchase a
was,
home?
that if they're there for 3 years, they want to leave, but they don't want to buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
I said that we'd give them their 5% back.
Even though that was part of their rent? So you're giving them basically a deduction in their rent?
You know what? That's a gift, isn't it?
Yes, that's a nice gift.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
think that through. I'm getting myself in trouble. Thank you.
I mean, that's nice. I
gift.
just want to be
Yeah,
clear,
that's a
that's
gift.
what you're
Yeah,
talking
you
about
should let
doing,
me left
because
alone, you
I just
know.
want to make sure
You had
that's
me on
what
the
you're gonna
record.
do.
Thank you, Jesus.
Because you know I will
Thank
ask you later
Okay.
on, right?
There goes
Yeah.
my bonus. My bonus is gone. Thank you very much.
No, that was very generous of you. The other thing, I noticed with the market rate units, and the appraisal was done in May of 2020, and on some of them, you're projecting to charge a little more than that? Is that accurate? I have to find the page.
Yeah, so what we did, we knew that the city might be interested in doing some market rate units. And we looked at the 80% AMI income levels and rent levels, which does still qualify as workforce housing under the program, but we took a look at those rents, and then we took a look at the market rents from Riviera Beach, which we got from our Heron family appraisal. And they roughly matched up. The 80% maximum rents were a few dollars above the current market rents, but what happens is when we were funded and we go back into underwriting, say a year from now, they'll do we'll do another appraisal, project specific. And so what they consider the market rents, probably will have come up a little bit. That's what we're anticipating.
Okay, so this price here is not in stone?
Yeah, and so, I mean, obviously, just because you can charge, let's say, $1,800 for a 3-bedroom, the market may say, hey, it's $1,700. And that's why we have some of the 70% AMI rental rates, which are a little bit lower, that at that time might be a little more in line with market. That's actually what we did at Heron Family. So we have the 70% rents. We didn't do any 80s there, but we think that by the time we're ready to break ground here, with the way the rental market's been going, that the 80% rents will probably be market rate.
Okay, thank you. Now, the other thing about the subcontractors that fall under Allsite, is there a guarantee that these subcontractors will be used, or is there an opportunity for them to be shut out and others brought into the project?
Well, I will just add that on Heron Estates Senior, We did use Greener to Green as our,
Yeah, I'm very
yeah,
familiar with the whole process.
and on
for
Heron
that, yeah.
Family, we are again using Greener to Greener, and we've got Brown's Electric that is absolutely going to be a part of it. So
You all have already have some sort of contract or something that you're
yeah,
going
so
to sign
certainly
with
for
them
those
to
two,
guarantee
I
that?
don't see any reason why. We've already got a track record with working with them, and we know they're competitively priced and competent. Certainly for those two line items, we don't see any reason why those would not.
Well, let me take a stab at this.
Yeah.
One of the beauty of having a local contractor as a partner is that when we make those procurement decisions, those subcontractor decisions, that person will be at the table. Now, I learned a lesson on Heron Family when we went out to procure minority contractors. We eliminated one minority contractor because their bid was high. When we took time to figure out why that bid was so high, we found out that the contractor misinterpreted the bid doc. And so it was high because he thought, he put something in there that he thought we wanted, and we didn't want it. When we took it out, we realized his bid was competitive. By having a prime contractor on the ownership team, there's an opportunity for some of these subs to discuss their bids conceptually with an owner. Because this business, despite what everybody says, is relationship driven. And unfortunately, historically, minority contractors have not had the relationships with the majority contractors. And to me, that's the key to success, is those business relationships and being able to talk to the people who make decisions that will improve your chance for success.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. McCoy, recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Lawson actually was starting exactly where I was going to go. It kind of seems that it would be premature to kind of even negotiate for equity partner, not even knowing those project costs at this point, and even being able to even suggest what that percentage is if we're still early in the phase. The only site plan that I've seen, and I'm sure there's probably going to be more planning later as, I think you said you engaged in Watman. It was very kind of, I guess it wasn't to scale, and it looks kind of.
It's the fifth page.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to really figure out exactly what's going on here because it's so small. But, you know, my concern is I appreciate the equity partner, but I don't really know how is it that you can really commit an equity partner to bringing on certain subs at this point so early in the game. That just seems very premature, Mr. Finney.
This is Shirley.
Commissioner Lanier, Mr. McCoy is...
Oh, okay. Hold on,
Mr. McCoy has the floor. I'll recognize you in a few minutes when he gets an answer to his last question.
I'm sorry, thank you.
Okay. Shall I answer? Shall I answer?
Yes, please.
Okay. Affordable housing, the math in affordable housing is backwards than your conventional deal. We do a lot of work in order to prep our application, in order to make an application for funding, that once we get our funding, then we spend $500,000 to design and to identify what the costs are. But here's what we can do. We can identify a contracting partner when we look at what they've done in their experience. And we can say that Florida Housing has a cap on profit on each deal. So we know hypothetically that the most profit you can make on this deal is 16% of construction. So we can say that you'll be a 1/3 partner of that 16% construction. That construction can be $15 million, that construction can be $5 million. So we can do that. The important element here is Does the company you're working with have the ability to perform as a general contractor? And we believe that SAFO does have that ability.
Okay. And you know, I appreciate that. I guess my next question would have been, and I guess it's perhaps already been more or less answered, but how do we monitor this for compliance? You know, 15 years in, the market changes, you know, HTG management arm of this organization chooses to sell the property. What happens? I mean, like realistically, right? I can imagine if you look at some of the communities here in Riviera Beach, they may have had some very interesting incentives to first start with, but ownership has changed hands 3 and 4 times. You know, but I mean, that's a great idea to offer 5%, but like realistically, I don't want you to sit here and suggest or even represent to the body that this is going to occur in perpetuity for the next 25 years. It's not.
If I may, our promises and commitments on the contracting phase of the project is short-term. It's from the breaking ground to building the building. To CO. And during that process, we'll have to come back to the city for permits. I mean, we got to get our permits now. So there's just, and inspections. So there's a number of ways that the city can communicate to us if we're not living up to what we promised. Trust me, there's a number of ways to do that. But in terms of long-term, we have to sign an affordability document which says that this project has to remain affordable for, I don't know, 30 years? 50 years. That's federal government law. So even if the project does change hands, if we have deposits from tenants who are in a homeownership initiative, those will be protected. And if the project changes hands, it will still be affordable. But understand, HCG has 25,000 units. We don't sell, this company does not sell their properties. That's not part of our business plan.
Okay, well, I guess I was suggesting in terms of the tenants' 5% in the match component, like, do we realistically expect that HTG is gonna honor this arrangement 20 years from now is what I was asking. Not so much the contractors or the equity partners portion.
We'll put it in writing. We'll put it in writing.
Put it in a record.
Okay, so does anybody have the, know what the zoning currently is for this? Was this suggested, Ms. Jenkins? Or is it in the backup? Because I think I heard something that I want to get some clarification on before we even go further, because it was mentioned you have to maintain affordability, and I don't want that to be construed with our zoning of affordable housing, which we do have a zoning provision of affordable housing.
Mr. McCoy, I see that Mr. Evans is here, Mr. of the Evans brothers. Mr. Scott Evans, do you happen to know the zoning in that area, Mr. Evans?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Which means how much height does that allow them?
I believe it has a 3-story building.
Thank you.
Well, so, members, if you can recall, and I don't even know, I was on the P&Z board, so I don't remember exactly where I experienced this, but we made a specific zoning designation for our community at 1555. I can't recall the new name, but it's formerly Stony Brooks. They have a specific zoning for affordable housing. That's not what that's not what we are to expect to occur from this one, because they have some parking restrictions which are associated with affordable housing, and I can't recall specifically, but I don't want that affordability provision that's mandated by Florida Finance Housing Corporation to be misconstrued as the zoning is some kind of way going to need to be changed. Do you follow what I'm saying, Mr. Evans?
No, not.
Okay, well, if we can defer, I'll pull it up in a minute, but we set aside specific zoning for Azure Estates, because they had a problem where they didn't have enough parking spaces, and we set aside a zoning regulation called, it was a new zoning change, and I'm sorry, we go through so many meetings.
You're
Help me
right,
out,
you're
Madam
right.
Chair.
I'm trying to remember. I know that we did something for them. We gave them some benefit because they didn't have enough parking spaces with the renovations, because they wanted to put in that community center in the
Correct.
middle, and so they had to reduce the number of parking spaces.
Correct.
But
And
I
that's
don't-
not what I'm looking for, and I don't want that to be what we should expect, because it almost seems like, in some respect, it almost seems synonymous. I'm gonna find it here in a second,
Okay.
so if you could,
Okay,
I'll defer
thank
for
you.
now.
Commissioner Lanier, do you have questions or comments?
I do have questions, but I would like to hear the other presenters first, because some of the questions may apply to both groups. So I know that we're going through the questions with this particular entity, but I want to be able to hear the other group before I ask both of them questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll defer, I think what I was looking for might have been in our first email system, unless Mr. Evans has the answer down at the end.
I do not have the answer, but I just wanted to inform the board there's approximately about 15 minutes left in their presentation. At the conclusion of the other presentation, they will both come back for additional questions.
Thank you. You all right? I have a question or two. I'm enamored of the notion that you would identify unskilled labor and that you want to work with the union to find and train unskilled laborers. I really like this idea. I wonder, have you done any of that in the past at any other project, and have you done any of that at the Heron Estates project?
We have not done any of that in the past in Riviera Beach. We've done it I've done it before down in Miami. One of the reasons why we're talking to the union right now is I'm talking to them about Heron Estates family. So we're gonna bring them on Heron Estates family, and then hopefully migrate that group to Island View.
Great. And do you use an apprenticeship model where you've got unskilled workers coming on and getting paid as apprentices?
Those are under discussions.
Under discussion. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Oh, excuse me, Jason.
Yeah, we, on Heron Estates Senior, we did do a job fair in partnership with the Housing Authority. And we also had, Section 3 requirements as part of the financing where, we want to bring in local folks. And there were some subcontractors that did hire. And I know that the general contractor did do reports on all that stuff. We could probably get it for you. But there is a big demand for labor and skilled labor, so there absolutely were some hires.
How many people, what kind of turnout did you get at that job fair?
I'd have to go back and take a look. I mean, it was a pretty good turnout, though.
Okay.
I believe, Madam Chair, I think we did one in every district. Right, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how many came at the others, but we may have had maybe about
We did
10,
one.
maybe
Some-
here
some-
from my district.
Some were, 20 people, and
Yeah.
some were 3,
Yeah.
and we went in every district, and,
Yep, okay, thank you. Any other questions from council or commission? Okay, I think.
Ma'am,
Commissioner Lanier, you're recognized.
yeah, I'm still gonna wait until after, but, to Mr. McCoy's point, was he looking for something like the overlay district?
I think he was looking for something when we discussed the parking situation at Stony Brook. We did something with zoning, we potentially did something with zoning over there, and I can't remember what it was. That's what he was trying to find out.
Okay.
Yeah, I know that there is a provision in the city code that does allow for reduced parking for affordable housing, but anything that related to that will, be under your purview, from a formal submittal on a site plan, and it's not necessarily tied to the financing. So you're still going to have full review and approval of the site plan and all that stuff when we come in.
Go ahead, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, and that's, Mr. Larson, respectfully, that's what I was trying to get at, because I'm looking at the site plan, which I can't hardly see unless I got a magnifying glass. And then, in terms of the number of units, trying to see what the parking ratio is, because you're correct, that affordable housing provision the zoning that we created for affordable housing does allow for reduced parking for certain affordable housing communities, and I thought we almost more or less did it specific for Azure State, Stony Brooks, and that there was no other place that it would apply. And before we take on a commitment such as this, I want to make sure that, you know, your parking, what's proposed in your site plan, isn't something that we're going to expect to come back in a fashion of us now looking to apply that zoning district or looking to do a zoning amendment or something like that for the property.
Well, what we do as part of the upfront due diligence when we make the application is we do this density study that you're looking at. I know it's a small copy, but and then we meet with planning and we say, hey, from a zoning standpoint, does it look like what we've got here line up with your current zoning? And we do have a site plan, I think, that shows up to 130 units, which has a lower parking, but this 110 unit plan does meet the parking requirements. You know, oh yeah, it's a 6.5 acre development, but any parking reduction would be something that the council would approve, and that's something that we take into account too, because we want to make sure there's enough parking for everybody that's living there, because we're it's going to be working folks, and if there's not enough parking, it could be a marketing issue. So yeah, we and sometimes if we've got a 3-story building. We can fit all the parking, but, maybe council decides that, hey, we'd like a little bit more green area, and maybe instead of 2 to the unit, we can do, 1.9 or something. So those are all discussions we can have when we, if we're funded, we come in with a full submittal. And that kind of goes back to the workshopping part I was talking about, that, we'd be happy to come in and, workshop it with the CRA and, have the public involved and all that stuff, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Jenkins, I think we've had all the questions we're going to have. And thank you.
Chair, are there any more questions? We have a few more minutes. We want to thank the HTG team for a very fine presentation, and you'll be escorted across the hall, and after the second presentation, we'll bring you back. We'll just ask that all of the HTG team members will please depart the hall.
And Madam Chair, if we can have about a 5-minute recess to be able to set the room for the next presenting.
Thank you. Walter, we're taking recess.
Our recess is over. Thank you, Walter.
Is he ready?
Ms. Jenkins?
Is Walter ready?
Walter's on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair Botel, and we're now ready for our second presentation with the Wendover Pinnacle Group. So we'll turn it over to them.
Good evening. My name is David Deutsch, and I am co-founder and partner of Pinnacle Housing Group. Little protocol is, with the social distancing, is
It's
it
fine.
okay to remove the mask?
Thank
or?
you. Yeah, no, you can take it off.
It's a dolphin mask, absolutely. It's okay, take it off.
Well, that was in honor of Mr. Stevenson.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mr. Mayor, Madam Chair, esteemed CRA board members, again, my name's David Deutsch. Delighted to be here. I am co-founder and partner of Pinnacle Housing Group, a company I formed in 1997 to primarily engage in rejuvenating neighborhoods and affordable housing. We are based in Miami, Florida, and I'm really excited to be here tonight for a few reasons. First of all, this is the first public appearance I have had since March, and it is a pleasure to have a little bit of normalcy tonight because we haven't had much normalcy. So being able to do this in the way you've set this up, I feel eminently comfortable, and thank you for that. Number two, I must tell you, you have a great choice tonight between two very fine firms that are competing for your support to go compete at the Florida Housing Finance Corporation later this month. And to have two really high-quality firms that are really, 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 really anxious to work with you and your city and try and improve the lives of your residents is only good for everyone here. So that to us is a blessing. But what's really exciting is I have the pleasure of introducing a joint venture that tonight is coming together to you, but has been together for many, many, many years. This is not a Johnny-come-lately group. Wendover and Pinnacle have been doing business together for over 20 years. Long-term relationship between the firms, really working hard to advance affordable housing throughout Florida together. And I've been partners with Dwight since probably about 2004 when we built our first development, Dwight Stevenson, and D. Stevenson Construction. And we started we built a development in Pompano Beach together and have subsequently formed a company called PCDS Construction, PC for Pinnacle Communities, DS for Dwight Stevenson. And we broke ground last week on a project in Miami-Dade County for senior housing in a 7-story, 112-unit affordable housing development. And so this is a team that has a lot of years together, a lot of experience together, that's worked together a long time. And I hope tonight we impress you and share with you the vision we have for Riviera Beach. So with that, I will turn it over to my partner, Mr. Tim Wheat, and let him begin the fun. Thank you.
Chairperson, Councilman and Mayor, City Manager, Anita, and everyone here tonight. I want to thank you for the opportunity and echo David's thoughts about this is a great opportunity for Riviera Beach to begin further activating the Broadway corridor. And you do have a choice between excellent companies, and we want to hope you'll indulge us and try to demonstrate to you why we think we have the competitive edge with what we're proposing to do tonight, called Berkeley Landing. You'll be meeting the rest of the team. My counterpart, Kevin Kroll from Wendover, will take over part of the presentation this evening, and then we'll also hear from Dwight Stevenson and Joe Sanchez about our construction plans and also our plans for local hiring here in Riviera Beach in connection with Berkeley Landing. But first, if I could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, okay, there we go. Just to give you some of the particulars about the location, we're at 3100 and 3124 Broadway. The site's about 4 acres in size, and what we're proposing is a 110-unit mixed income and mixed use development, 3 stories in height with 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units available. at a variety of income levels ranging from 30% to market rate rentals. And with a lot of unique features and amenities, which we have tried to locate directly on the Broadway corridor for our narrow amount of space that we are directly facing on Broadway, to activate it, to give the feeling that there's activity and excitement. And we do that through a variety of ways with our fitness and cyber cafe, a club room, our leasing facility, 2 live-work lofts, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and then also a public plaza. We actually have 2 public plazas, one on Lakeshore Drive and the main one on Broadway. We have a great team of professionals, some of which we've already talked about, but a larger group that includes the Palm Beach County-based Richard Jones Architecture, the Gunster Law Firm that'll help us with legal advisory services, Urban Design Studio for urban planning, and Wendover's management arm. These represent best-in-class professionals. We'll be adding to the team as we move this development forward, but we're off to a great start in terms of getting the best and the brightest to work here in Riviera Beach. The Pinnacle team, you met David, 2 other partners, Louis Wolfson III and Mitch Friedman, been together since 1997. I'm been with Pinnacle since 2002. I'm a native of West Palm Beach, and I keep an office here in Palm Beach County. Jonathan Wolf is the principal for Wendover, and I've known Jonathan going back 25 years. It's like an old reunion. Like I know Jason Larson from HTG, and he and I used to work together. We all in the affordable housing business have all crossed paths many times, but I've had the pleasure of working with Jonathan and knowing him for many years. They share the same corporate DNA we do, which is trying to create the best-in-class type developments. We are approaching 10,000 total units. We've always had a focus on urban and infill redevelopment, and we focused in the past in doing public-private partnerships, either with nonprofit organizations, with public housing authorities, and recently we've taken advantage of the 2015 public-private partnership law to work directly with cities like we did in the city of Hollywood, which you'll learn a little bit more about in a second, where we submit a public-private partnership proposal and go through a P3 procurement process. So a little bit of background about Mitch and Louis and David, very accomplished. Mitch has got a long career in development. Louis he's the inspiration for our Art and Public Places program, which I'm going to tell you about, and David is David, but he's also our numbers guy. He makes sure everything works financially. So some of the highlights of developments we've done, experience with mixed income housing on the Brickell corridor in Miami called Brickell View Terrace, right there at the Brickell station for Metro Rail, beautiful community with 100 affordable units and 76 market rate units. One of the greatest income mixing examples you will find in the southeastern United States. We also do luxury housing, and we recently built a new development called La Vida in the Blue Lagoon Corporate Center near Miami International Airport. It's been immensely successful, finished last year. Caribbean Village was a development we did in partnership with Miami-Dade County along the busway. So we have seniors with immediate access to transit. And Pinnacle at Peacefield is the one I referenced a little bit about taking advantage of the P3 law. In a lot of ways, this is sort of similar in scale to what we're proposing at Berkeley Landing, because we're at 3 stories of height. We have buildings out on the street activating an urban corridor that had some blight and neglect in the CRA, and we developed on CRA and city-owned land, in fact, and finished this development just about 3 months ago, and it already is 100% full, proving that even during the pandemic, the demand for affordable housing, particularly for fixed-income seniors, is very robust. Cannery Row at Redlands Crossing is a development that David mentioned that we have the construction joint venture partnership with PCDS Construction. That closed last week. There's actually an article in the South Florida Business Journal today about it. And I'm sure that Dwight Stevenson and Joe Sanchez with D. Stevenson Construction will tell you a little bit about their their role in that as that moves forward, and we hope to have that finished in late 2021. I'm going to turn over the microphone to my friend and colleague, Kevin Kroll, who's going to tell you about Wendover and their experience, and we appreciate you indulging us as we familiarize each of you with us and our accomplishments. And then Kevin will take you through the nuts and bolts of what we're proposing at Berkeley Landing. I'll come back and tell you a little bit about the Human Services Program, our home ownership effort, and then introduce you to the construction piece, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Good evening, Chairperson, Commissioners. Thank you very much for your time and your dedication to the city and your consideration tonight. As Tim said, it's a wonderfully terrible problem you have here in trying to choose here between one of these two communities for Riviera Beach. A little background on Wendover Housing Partners. We are a vertically integrated apartment developer. Have been in business now for about 30 years. Our principal, Jonathan Wolf, was one of the early tax credit housing developers in the state of Florida. We have a portfolio of about 4,000 units that we built up over that span throughout the Southeast, primarily here in Florida. We develop, own, and manage everything ourselves, and that's for one main reason. We take great pride in what we build and what we manage. We don't see ourselves as real estate developers as much as servants of our residents, and that's why we take great pride in what we build. Our property management company is there not just to service the property, but to service the residents. Jonathan gave you a little bit of background on him. Some of the community highlights of our properties. Haley Park, an affordable 80-unit senior community down in Tampa. This was near the Haley Veterans Hospital, and I'll touch a little bit on this component as well, on our relationship with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and how we're going to incorporate that here in Riviera Beach at Berkeley Landing. We have more than 25 veterans living there currently, 5 of whom were previously homeless, and that's thanks to the efforts that our property management company has led there in Tampa with the VA. Marsh's Point up in Jacksonville, another affordable community for seniors, just 2 minutes from downtown. These properties, in terms of the finishes, the amenities, very similar to what we're incorporating here with Berkeley Landing, what we have planned. Weston Park is a testament here to teamwork and working with a number of different organizations to bring communities to fruition. Weston Park was a transitory development in a suburb of Orlando, Longwood, at a commuter rail station there. We worked with the Federal Transit Administration, the Department of Transportation here in Florida. It was a true public-private partnership to bring this community to fruition, and is emblematic kind of what we are commonly seeing now throughout in many municipalities, and something that I think we anticipate incorporating here as well with the CRA, with the city, in terms of the public-private partnership and the ongoing work together and the input that we are seeking. You know, we're not seeking to develop Berkeley Landing unilaterally. We want your input in the entire process here. Wellington Park, another affordable community up in the Orlando area for families, very similar to some of the amenities that we're going to have here at Berkeley Landing. Pool, full fitness center. We have community learning centers on the property. We have free Wi-Fi throughout for the residents, with free computers to use for the residents. A great tool for the families. And we'll touch a little bit on some of the programs that we regularly offer as well that are included. As for the Berkeley Landing site itself, an elevation here, this is the Broadway elevation showing the kind of the commercial space in the front. We have leasing office, some of the amenities that I touched on previously, as well as the live-work units. And we'll discuss those a little more in depth also. But this is one of the focal components, really, of Berkeley Landing, and something that we're really excited about here in terms of the potential for this community to reinvigorate the Broadway corridor. The aerial, you guys are probably familiar with the property. It spans the entire acreage between Broadway and Lakeshore Drive there. On site here, and I'll show you on the next slide, the amenity layout. We have a 3-story building here planned, parking, all to city code. I think what is unique to the Berkeley Landing site in particular here and offers a lot of opportunity is the site immediately adjacent to the north there, more commonly known as the AT&T site. We have been in discussions with the current owner there about the potential to develop that property in the future, and that's something that we hope to do as a later phase of development here. But I think that's one of the core advantages, or distinct kind of competitive advantages here that Berkeley Landing has here is the potential for future additional development that could be spurred here as well. Here you have a kind of an aerial view of the site plan here. Pool in the center, kind of a full resort-style pool. In terms of the communities that we build, these are Class A quality apartment communities. And I'm going to touch a little bit on the income ranges and the mix of income levels that we have here. But we have everything from market rate down to affordable and very low income rents here. And in spite of that, though, this is a full Class A level apartment community. When you think of affordable housing, what we are building in our portfolio these days is far different than the common conception from years past. We have a full resort-style pool on site here, tot park, dog park with a pavilion, full outdoor amenities. As you see there, we're spanning both sides between Broadway and Lakeshore, as I said, so we have the commercial space there fronting Broadway. And here you see the amenities. A view here of the pool. We use builder-grade, durable, energy-efficient features throughout, the highest quality that you're going to find, no matter if it's the highest luxury product. There's really no difference here. As for the unit amenities, we've got impact-resistant doors and windows throughout, hard surface countertops and floors, Energy Star rated appliances. We have island kitchens, as well as some of the newest technology available, USB ports, for instance. And as I said, Wi-Fi throughout the property as well. These images are all from our current portfolio, so just to kind of give you guys an idea of some of the finishes that we typically incorporate. As for the community amenities, again, the cyber lounge, we have community meeting rooms that we make available for local community and civic organizations as part of our ongoing efforts to kind of marry our property with the local community and enhance what is available in the local community. Resort-style pool, fitness center, outdoor recreation, like I said. We have full security throughout, electronic surveillance, controlled access. We also work closely with the local police department. We always offer a unit free of charge for a local community officer to live in, so there's a presence, not just for the benefit of the property, but really for the surrounding area. We want to be able for the residents to engage with their local community officers. So we always work with local police, local fire in terms of design, site plan, and building design. We get down to the nuts and bolts of the project. We have a total development cost here of roughly $30 million. Of that, about $18 million of hard construction cost going directly into the local community. How this is going to be financed. A permanent mortgage, and also I should point out about $1.2 million of impact and utility connection fees also going directly into the local community, both the city, obviously, and the county. In terms of the capital structure, permanent mortgage of $6.1 million, the local government area of opportunity funding that we're discussing here tonight of $640,000, private tax credit equity of roughly $22 million. And then we, as the developer, are going to defer the max amount of fee as allowed per the Housing Tax Credit Code. That's 50% of the total developer fee. So roughly $2 million we defer and leave as a source in the development budget. Now, Berkeley Landing's unit mix is top-heavy, as you'll see, with market rate equivalent units, and as a result of an in-depth market analysis. It's our stated goal to achieve as wide of an income spectrum as possible, as I said. The exact unit mix and proposed rents are a result of Pinnacle and Wendover's extensive analysis, including the engagement of a market study completed by the local Zilla Turco Associates. This market study concluded that the achievable market rents in Riviera Beach are equivalent to the 80% median income of Palm Beach County. For a two-person household, that equals about $70,000. Sorry, for a four-person household, that's about $70,000 a year, about $56,000 a year for a two-person household. This income level is considered market rate / workforce, and it targets a demographic that's most commonly underserved by quality rental housing. Specifically, this demographic includes essential services personnel, such as healthcare workers, first responders, teachers, government workers, skilled labor, and young professionals. And it's that demographic that we're most excited about in bringing to the Broadway corridor to the CRA here. You know, there has not been any quality, a new apartment inventory built in Riviera Beach in the market in any of the latest market cycles. And so this product represents kind of something that is really a catalytic development for Riviera Beach for many reasons, but really for the kind of demographics and renters and incomes that we're going to be bringing here. Not just low income, but really expanding it. It's going to include 25 tax credit funded units at the 80% AMI with rents equivalent to the market rate, as I said. In addition, we'll have 2 live-work units with no income or rent restrictions. And those are the live-work units on the ground floor at street level like I talked about. And we're excited about those because that really brings a lot of opportunity for small business incubation in the area. You know, the whole live-work factor where you're bringing folks in who have the ability to incubate, to create local jobs, and are not putting a burden otherwise on transportation and other resources. In addition, with the possible consideration by the city of amendments to the existing zoning code that might permit more height on the site, right now we're limited, as per the zoning, to 3 stories, as we show in the site plan there. We also would like to consider a yield of more total units, which would be strictly market rate units as well. So additional market rate units potentially, if we could enhance the zoning here and gain some more density. Now, in terms of serving our residents and the populations we're targeting here, I touched a little bit on the essential services personnel. Veterans' families. You know, when we talk about veterans, historically you're always thinking seniors, but the fact of the matter is that age group has expanded so much over the last few years. Veterans' families are not just elderly anymore. They skew much younger. Wendover understands that to foster the overall success of Berkeley Landing, the needs of individual tenants must be understood and met on a constant basis. And due to the Berkeley Landing's close proximity to the Palm Beach Veterans Affairs Medical Center, we aim to serve a high number of veterans residents, and we look forward to building upon our company's experience and stellar reputation for serving not only this particular demographic, but all needs residents. Wendover recently completed Haley Park in Tampa, as I just showed you, where veterans constitute a significant portion of the applicants. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the process worked there. The Wendover management team immediately reached out to the Veterans Affairs Office in the James A. Haley Hospital there in an effort to craft and provide appropriate support services for these new residents. And as such, vast vouchers were allocated and procured for these qualifying tenants. Local organizations provided move-in assistance, home goods, furniture free of charge to these new residents. And then we had a visit from the U.S. Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Robert McDonald, who personally made a visit to Haley Park and lauded its ability to not only house but also to enhance the lives of veteran residents. And I believe in the package that was provided to each of you previously, there was a letter of support in there from the VA office. That is one of the reasons we are so excited about the potential for Berkeley Landing, is because of its proximity to the large VA medical clinic here in Riviera Beach and the potential it has to house veterans' families. We continue to work successfully with these HUD-VASH offices throughout the state of Florida, and upon nearing completion of Berkeley Landing, we'll work with the Palm Beach County HUD-VASH supervisor to begin identifying these local veterans that will qualify to become residents. All the approved referrals to the property will be directed to the community through one of the housing specialists from this local office. And our staff, which includes case managers, our staff will work with the HUD office, including the case managers, clinicians, and housing specialists for a variety of veteran support tasks. This includes assisting with security deposits, prorates, electric and utility deposits, furnishings and other accessories, and as well as supplemental rents. There's other portions of the population, too, that are equally important. Persons with special needs and extremely low-income households typically face a unique set of challenges when it comes to qualifying for and remaining in high-quality, affordable housing. Wendover Management is adept at assisting these PSN and EOI households with every stage of the housing process, from application through move-in, as well as providing ongoing rental assistance programs. We'll work closely with the Palm Beach County Housing Authority and the Department of Community Services, as well as the Riviera Beach Housing Authority, to identify and contact potential residents individually, beginning about a year before Berkeley Landing is ready for leasing, and provide them with the best opportunity to move in to new, high-quality apartments. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to, I'm sorry, no, there's one more area I'll touch on here as well. So obviously some of the programs that I mentioned that we offer free of charge to all residents: adult literacy, employment assistance and referrals, financial management and budget counseling, parenting skills, health and nutrition classes, the computer labs that I talked about, life skills courses, and tutoring assistance for the children. And I think it's one thing that's really important for us to realize here. The residents that are going to be living here in Berkeley Landing, these are not residents that are going to be coming from far away. They're already right here in our community. The truth of the matter, though, is right now is that the fact that these residents are currently spending more than half of their annual income on housing. And most often, that housing is substandard or dilapidated in one way or another, or substandard to the needs. What Berkeley Landing is providing here is brand new quality apartment housing for these families. But in addition, and most importantly perhaps, they're going to be spending about half as much annually on rent. That frees up a lot of discretionary income. They're going from spending 50 to 60% of their annual income down to a maximum of 30%. And when you quantify that, that frees up over $1 million of discretionary income annually just at Berkeley Landing. And that income typically always flows directly to the local businesses. So that's really, at the end of the day, that as affordable housing providers is really the biggest impact that we see in every community. It's not just the revitalization of the community and the catalytic effect that a community like Berkeley Landing will have in terms of further development, but in terms of the local economy, that's the main catalytic effect that the residents are bringing with them. I believe the next slide, I'll turn it back over to Tim. Oh, sorry, no, I'm sorry. The heart of the matter here, the consistency with the Riviera Beach CRA master plan. So currently an estimated 40% of the property within the CRA is vacant or derelict. Riviera Beach has a 65% residential rental rate due to the lack of new housing construction in the city over the last 20 years. These are facts that are brought to us through many mediums, one of which was the market study that we conducted. But we see these facts evidenced everywhere. As a result, the lack of affordable rental housing has been singled out as the greatest challenge currently facing the city. A key component of the CRA's 2008 updated master plan was a long-term redevelopment strategy for the district north of Blue Heron, adjacent to Broadway, at the heart of which is Berkeley Landing. The city adopted a new comprehensive plan, including form-based zoning codes that seek a wide range of uses to create a more diverse downtown area, which encompasses the CRA district. One of the main objectives of this overhaul is to create more affordable senior housing within the district. Other initiatives adopted by the CRA for the district all have a direct correlation with the anticipated success of Berkeley Landing. Our development will be crucial to this success through many initiatives, including enhancing the working waterfront, attracting new residents to the city, and elevating the quality of housing for existing residents. We'll create both construction and permanent jobs that we're going to get a little more in-depth into here in a minute. And it will provide a catalyst for future residential investment and development. We're also going to be empowering a base for future long-term city homeowners through our Home Ownership Opportunities Program that Tim is going to touch on here. And we're going to be removing the living expense burdens that I just discussed on existing residents of Riviera Beach through offering more affordable rents. And at the end of the day, you're expanding the tax base. You're allowing for the CRA to capture this tax increment to invest in more change-making development. We're talking about an incremental change. The ad valorem tax is about $125,000 a year to the city.
Thanks, Kevin. We know how important it is for Riviera Beach to not only grow the workforce, but also to see that economic benefits of developments such as Berkeley Landing stay within the city. So we've looked at some of the metrics here in trying to calculate that economic benefit. And we relied on a number of sources that we cited in our response to you, and we expect that for a development of about 18 million, you could see 110 to 122 new full-time job equivalents. We'll have 5 full-time positions created, and a study by the National Association of Home Builders that looks at periodically the impact on rental housing, workforce, and affordable housing. We look at multipliers, and that multiplier tells us that this development will ultimately create 30 full-time new positions. And the thing that Kevin and I have touched on is these 2 live-work lofts. I remember speaking with Ms. Jenkins a while back, mentioning that the city is creating a small business incubator at the old bank building on the northeast corner of Blue Heron and US 1. And in our thinking about this development, we've thought about a way we could further activate the corridor and be truly mixed use. And we came up with the idea of doing 2 live-work lofts. Coincidentally, those would be the 2 market rate units in the development, completely income restricted, so any entrepreneur who may come from your incubator or any other resource that we can identify can live above and then work, have a private stairwell and enter their workforce below. It's a strategy that we used in a redevelopment called Cassanus Village at Frenchtown Square in Tallahassee, where we developed in the historic Frenchtown community. 2 exciting things about that is, one is that we named it after a community change maker named Aurelius Cassanus, whose daughter, Aquilina Howell, wound up being the assistant superintendent in charge of integrating the Leon County schools in the 1960s and 1970s. So he was a musician, put a fun statue of him playing his clarinet at our development as part of our Art in Public Places. But the second aspect of it is we did these 2 live-work lofts, and they've proved to be enormously popular, and they've created businesses in the community. So that's one way that we'll, at construction at Berkeley Landing and afterwards, we'll be a job creator. So I'm going to turn over the program here, if I can click to the next slide. Yes. So our commitment here is for a goal of 25% participation by locally owned MBE, WBE, SMWBE, and SBEs here. And our partnership with D. Stevenson Construction and Dwight and Joe, who are going to speak to you in just a moment, will work with us to achieve or exceed that goal. And typically in working with those kind of similar set-asides, they have exceeded those goals in the past. One of the things that we also want to do is not only hire local contractors, but also give people opportunities at apprenticeship and jobs. And one of the things that we've done at Pinnacle is done job fairs periodically, oftentimes more than once, in a great many of our developments. And actually, that's a picture from a job fair a few years back in Fort Myers that was immensely successful. And it was at a very difficult economic time in the city, and we wound up having hundreds of hires from the local community, many of whom wound up being permanent hires by the contractors and subcontractors they worked with. So there's a strategy, and Dwight and Joe Sanchez are going to explain it to you, and I'm going to, I don't want to go back. I'm going to turn the program over to them. Dwight.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Like everyone else, we are very excited to be here this evening. I would like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present. A little bit more myself, Dwight Stevenson. I'm CEO and co-founder of D. Stevenson Construction, along with my wife. We founded the company 28 years ago. We employ about 33 people. We are the largest black-owned construction management company in the state of Florida. And we take pride in doing a good job. Again, some of the projects that we've done, one project that we just finished up probably about a year ago was also in the multi-family, multi-dwelling. It was located in the city of South Bay. It was 133 units, about a $22 million construction project. D. Stevenson was the prime contractor on that. And as mentioned earlier, we've had a standing relationship with Pinnacle Housing Group for the last 15 years. We did Pinnacle Village, which was in the city of Pompano, and we've been involved with 2 or 3 other projects, as well as we're going to be doing Cannery Row, which is that Tim and David mentioned earlier, located in southwest Dade County, and it's about 133, 100 some units as well and stuff. But again, this is not a relationship that we just got together to present. Is one of a long-standing relationship, and we want you to know that, and we're excited to be here to be a part of the team. And community has always been involved, been very, very important to me and to my company and stuff. And Joseph Sanchez, who's a partner and president of D. Stevenson Construction, he's going to tell you how D. Stevenson is committed to the community and how we want to see the community and give back to the community and be a part of this project for us. Joe.
Thank you, Dwight. So as Dwight mentioned, we have done a number of affordable housing, a number of sizable projects in the past, and been involved with the community for a long time. In fact, I'm on the board of directors for the Black Chamber of Commerce, and I'm actively, consistently looking for black-owned businesses to help build up in our community. We were also previously awarded the Corporate Partner of the Year by the Palm Beach County Business Matchmakers. So that's just to talk about our commitment and our history doing that kind of work. On the screen you see we actually were involved in and was a joint venture partner in building this facility here that we're in today. In that project, we were one of the first projects that implemented the city's apprenticeship program. So we made sure that we had relationships with local union businesses, union organizations, as well as non-union organizations, labor forces, to make sure we employed individuals and got them the skills that they need to create a lifetime opportunity for them. And on that project, we had 13 Riviera Beach companies involved in that project. On the South Bay Village project that Dwight spoke about, the $22 million project, we had a job fair there, and over 300 people showed up to that job fair, and we had over 30% local workforce and over 35% local business participation. So as mentioned, this is about an $18 million hard cost project, and we implement a share program on all our projects. That's something that we've created ourselves. SHARE is an acronym, It stands for Seek, Help, Access, Report, and Evaluate. We seek out firms through various databases. We go through the county's database, the school districts, the cities, and we look up firms, and then we have outreach events, whether that's virtual or in person, to make sure we identify firms and make sure they are aware of the opportunity. We help them. We help them get pre-qualified with us. We help them get certified with different agencies, and to make sure that they have access to the information, which is the next next word, access to drawings, so they can have those documents in their hands, so they can know what they're going to be required of doing. They can form partnerships if they need to, in order to make sure that they're ready to get ready for the project. And then we report. We provide monthly reports back to the city, to the CRA, to let you know how we're doing, to make sure that we're meeting our commitments. And then E is the evaluate. We make sure that there's real participation. It's not just on paper. People are benefiting. They're getting out of the program what they expect to get out of it. So we do all these things to make sure that we are a conduit and we're facilitating wealth development in our communities. That's our number one goal. We want to make sure that we leave the community better off than when we found it. So through job creation, through creation of helping and developing small businesses, we've done that consistently. In fact, over 40% of our business, we committed 25% at minimum on this project, but over 40% of our subcontracts currently go to small minority business throughout the Stevens portfolio. So thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, Joe and Dwight. So we're trying to tie all this together, all of the positive benefits of the development, and one that we don't want to overlook is inspiring the community, inspiring new and exciting and innovative development. And one of the things that's sort of been Pinnacle's moniker is art in public places. So we do it in all of our developments, and we will do it here at Berkeley Landing. It will be donated by Pinnacle's partners, and it will be in both of the community plazas. We find that it inspires people, it inspires our residents, it gives them a sense of belonging and a sense of place, and it really will help between the activity we'll put on the corridor with our amenities and people working out and people walking and people conducting small businesses and art with hardscape that will work with the CRA and the planning staff at the city to craft. We can create a really exciting feel on the corridor. It's just something that we at Pinnacle, and I know Wendover shares this view too, we're really passionate about art in public places. The Romero Burrito piece, you may, if you've been driving down to Miami to head to the airport or a Miami Heat game, you'll see that right at the 195 expressway on the east side. So people seem to sort of recognize that as a signature, but sculpture pieces and murals. We've done all kinds of things, and our partner Lewis Wolfson has donated a lot of his time and energy now to murals depicting various social justice causes in the Miami area and throughout South Florida. So it's something we think will really separate us and make Berkeley Landing really exciting when people in the city drive by, and a source of enormous community pride. Berkeley Landing, Kevin talked so eloquently about all of the programs we do. What we're trying to do is have residents be a stepping stone. It's good for the development. A vibrant development involves some level of turnover, that people feel like they're living in a place where they can step higher. And we want to see them, and you want to see them, be at Berkeley Landing, enjoy quality living, benefit from the programming we'll do through Wendover Management, but then also move to home ownership. So we have pledged to rebate 5% of the rent for our residents who qualify for a home buying program here in the city. So we're going to take the proceeds that they've paid us and reinvest back in the city of Riviera Beach. But first, we're going to give them the proper home buyer education and counseling. We'll set up programs with organizations such as Community Partners, and I'm actually the president of the board of directors of the Community Land Trust in Palm Beach County. I helped found that back in 2007. And first-time home buying is a passion for me. That's how I spend my volunteer time. So I really want to see our residents transition into home ownership, and Pinnacle and Wendover are putting our money where our mouth is. And we'll help double down, because you have the home buyer education programs through your CDC and also assistance programs. So this is in essence a doubling of the investment. We can combine what the city does with our investment and spur more home ownership. So I just wanted to give you a quick rundown on the key dates. You probably know from our written proposal and that of our esteemed competitors that you can only choose one development for this local government area of opportunity designation. And if you make a choice tonight, that winner will apply to Florida Housing on October 20th. And hopefully there's a board approves the rankings in this calendar year, but usually there's an appeal process that takes a number of months, gets sorted out by the spring. So shovel in the ground, we think in the late first or to the end of the second quarter of 2022, and then completion about 15 months thereafter. And the return on your $640,000 investment, which of course can be a loan, and we will repay it in full, that is leveraging $48 of other investment in a $30.5 million development, and flowing the construction costs and the tax value. And I think what Kevin pointed out is really important too, is that we're giving people who are cost burdened, who may be living in substandard housing or having double or triple up in market rate and overpriced housing, to live in a development where they can save and have discretionary income and spend that discretionary income here in at the marina waterfront or elsewhere with local businesses in the city, and also save for their future and future home ownership. So in closing, no, well, thank you in a second. In closing, I think that we've hoped that we've conveyed to you tonight that this is a merging together of best-in-class companies with best-in-class thinking and long-term partnerships and relationships, that we all sort of come together and said the time is right for doing what we're proposing. And Pinnacle and Wendover are long-term hold owners. We'll be in this deal for 50 years. We're partnering with a fantastic company like Dwight Stevenson. We're delivering a Class A looking development that matches everything that our collective companies do. It's in our corporate DNA to be best in class and make affordable or workforce or mixed income housing indistinguishable from any other type of housing. And we do believe in public spaces, and we believe very strongly in placemaking. And we think Berkeley Landing is just an amazing opportunity for placemaking and for investment and growth in your community. So whatever you decide tonight, we want to really thank you for your time. You've been very gracious, and we know this has been on a very trying time schedule, but we really appreciate the immense effort that this Mr. Evans and his staff has put together, very thoughtful questions and thoughtful analysis in scheduling this meeting. And we're humbled by the opportunity to present before you tonight. And we do thank you for your time, and we're certainly available for any questions you have. So thank you again.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Mr. Lawson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Gentlemen, first and foremost, I want to thank you guys so much for coming here to the city to present. Both teams, both presentations were amazing, and we're very excited because we're focused on development here in the community. So first and foremost, thank you so much. I want to go into just a few quick questions. Property ownership. The projects that you work on, do you develop, manage, and own them yourselves?
Yes, so Pinnacle has built almost 10,000 affordable housing multifamily units in 3 states. Mm-hmm. We own and we construct. The one area we third party is property management. We didn't feel we had the skill sets and the requisite experience to do that. So what we did over the course of a number of years is hire 4 or 5 different best-in-class companies and figured out who was the best, and they manage a good portion of our portfolio. In this case, we have best-in-class with Wendover, and that's the beauty of what you're getting with these 3 firms. You're getting 3 experienced firms for really the price of 1. And so we're long-term owners, we're long-term operators, we hire best-in-class management companies, and we stand behind our developments, and some of our developments today are 20 years old and they look brand new.
Just going to add a remark. We own a development in West Palm Beach called Pinnacle Palms. It's a perfect example. And I'll let Kevin answer for Wendover. You probably might recognize it because it's on the east side of I-95 if you're headed northbound right before the Palm Beach Lakes exit. It's a series of brightly colored 4, 5, 6, and 7-story buildings. We built that in 2002 and just conducted a multi-million-dollar facelift of it. And so not only do we maintain long-term ownerships, when we refinance and recapitalize our properties, we invest back in them. So, Kevin.
Yeah, the short answer is absolutely yes. We own everything still to date that we have built to date. Very seldomly have ever sold a property. As I said, we have a very large portfolio that's been built up over a number of decades now. And so we manage everything that we build ourselves. We self-manage everything for a number of reasons. But I think more importantly, I would take you back to step one of the process, and that's construction. You know, we build everything for the long term. So we're not building it just to flip it. We know we're going to own it for a long time. And so I would venture to guess, only because speaking from experience, I know that our hard costs are typically always higher than the competition's because we are putting extra into it from the start. We're building that property to be a Class A property for a long time because we know we're going to be the ones owning it and maintaining it.
Thank you. So follow up with that management and the property management of the project. Security, property management, local management. Tell me a little bit about the management of who's going to be operating property management of the site.
Sure. Yeah, our property management is always local. The property manager themselves will most likely be, if not a native, certainly a resident of Riviera Beach. We always look locally. We start right at the epicenter and go from there in terms of the radius and selecting the best talent possible. We want somebody that is familiar with the market, with the potential residents, and then ongoing has relationships with the residents ongoing. You know, we have families here. We have elderly people. We're going to have every age bracket, every demographic imaginable. So we want somebody that has experience and has roots in that local community. And we do that at every property in our portfolio. That is the same case.
Okay. Thank you so much. And you mentioned, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned enhancements and possible densities. If enhancements did come in the near future, that these would be market rate units. Why would these be market rates units versus workforce units?
It just comes down to, in terms of tax credit financing, it's a long algorithm in terms of how many units can be tax credit eligible. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they're not income restricted or tax credit eligible. In terms of the look, the feel of the units, they're identical. You don't know a difference. We mix incomes as you saw in our properties. These are all mixed income properties, and they range everywhere from 30 or even 22% AMIs up to 120% AMIs sometimes. And so, you know, you've got some people might be paying $3,000 a unit, and the guy in the next unit might be paying a few $100s a unit. There's no difference in the quality of the unit or in the way it's managed.
Right, and we understand with both companies, we know that the quality is going to be A1 across the board. So my concern is that we're trying to create enough workforce units and workforce housing in our community to make it affordable. We have to protect the integrity of the community. We cannot allow for gentrification to happen on our corridor, so we need to make sure that we have enough housing to provide housing for our firefighters, our police, for our local workforce within our community. And this would be a great project for them to start off, especially transitioning to the home ownership, which I'm going to ask about next. But that's my thought process when it comes to the difference between the market rate, which may not be affordable for some of our workforce compared to the workforce housing, if we did increase or possibly talked about densities later on. I know with this new markets, with this tax credit, that we have to only fit within the guidelines, and the current zoning is three stories, but if this discussion did come up in the near future, making sure that our developers are going to be flexible with increasing the densities, with allowing for us to add additional height, but also making sure they're directly impacting what we need, which is the workforce.
We want to affirm on behalf of our team that we understand that flexibility, and we would agree. And yes, you know, what we're talking about is a speculative possible future adjustment in zoning. Our proposal calls for 110 units of units restricted at various income levels. If there was a future change that might allow a few more units, we would certainly think that part of any negotiation or discussion with the city and the council and its wisdom approving that we would agree to a stratification of income that the council felt was appropriate, and staff.
Again, that's just for my own personal edification. That hasn't been passed, not even a discussion. So that's just in the means of, we've had previous discussions with this DIAS about possible increases of densities and intensity. So that's why I asked that question.
If I could just say one other thing, though, to your point,
please,
is that we have flexibility. Okay,
Good.
so we did a market study, and we felt that we believe in mixed income. I mean, we even put 100 units of affordable 76 market rate.
Yes.
And a lot of people thought we were crazy. And they thought we were going to build pour doors. And they thought we were going to create really 2 developments in one. And we didn't. Everybody rides in the same elevator. Everybody parks in the same garage. There's no such thing as a pour door. And we successfully implemented what we thought was a wonderful mixed income opportunity. Okay. We're doing 80% units here. We can do 70% units, but we felt for workforce housing, we wanted to, and we believe we can accomplish 80% units, which by and large are market rate units. The beauty of market rate units are you have no income or rent restrictions. The difference is with 80%, you have to fit within the program guidelines. So we were looking for some flexibility with those live-work lofts. But if we all sat down and added some density or talked about an ideal unit mix, we could put in some 70s, we can do 80s. We thought the 80s were the most attractive option to mix with the affordable, but of course we're open to working with you all and settling in on that. That is not decided at the time of application. So there's flexibility, okay?
And that's our concern, is just making sure we have the flexibility with our developers and our partners, because we're excited about development here in the community. So making sure that we can work with you hand in hand to say, this is what the community needs are, please address them.
And we share that vision. We're just giving you our ideas, but it is a collaboration, of course.
Okay. Just 2 more questions, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Madam Chair, you have 2 minutes.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yikes.
One more question.
One more, and then.
Just one more.
Yeah.
Local participation.
Commissioner Lanier.
Mr. Lawson, go ahead.
Who's talking?
They're going to come back, but you have 2 minutes to their presentation part is over, and then both teams will come back.
Ask one, and then I'll go to
Thank you.
each.
And just quickly, local participation is a priority for our community. I see that 25% was outlined for minority, women-based, and local participation in SB. But please give some details on how we can address them, and what locals have you already engaged with here in the community?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we've on the last project, which was this project that we did with the city, we engaged 13 companies, including, we bought all of our, well, actually on South Bay Village, we bought all of our doors from Builders First Source, but also we had Anderson was involved in our project. Allsite was involved in our project. We had Newbolt was involved in our project. We had Farmer and Irwin was all involved. So all those companies have been involved previously and are on our bid list, and we will reach out to them again. What we would do is once we have the drawings engaged at a certain level, we will invite those firms in, all the local firms in, make sure they have an opportunity to bid on the project. We want to make sure we're going to give them as best advantage to participate in the project as possible, but we're not signing agreements until we have competitive bids and working with them to help them be competitive. But we also want to make sure they have the best opportunity by not forcing them to be extremely low bidders and stuff like that. So we're going to work with them, come with the right numbers, and make sure that they're involved with their project. And we've done that, and that's the success that we've had, and not by just overcommitting to firms that we can't, that we won't be able to deliver at the end of the day. But also we want to make sure that they're involved from the very beginning with the pricing and everything, to make sure that they have the understanding that's necessary to get them involved. And we've been very successful doing that. Like I said, over 40% participation.
Thank you. I think I was just handed the hook.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But we will be
just one question, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, if I may, because this process is outlined the way in which it is, and it's such a competitive process,
If there are follow-up questions, both groups will be in the room, so you can ask additional questions of whatever team. And so if we can move into that
Okay.
phase, it would be better.
Thank you. Let's do that. Do we need a 2-minute break first?
Just have both teams.
They're going to be both in here, both in the
So
room.
have one team here and one team over here?
Yeah, they can, one
Maybe
team
the
can
microphone
convene
there.
over there and one team can be here at the podium.
Thank you.
If I could just put something on record right quick. I just want to put something on record. I know Mr. Sanchez mentioned about reaching out to those firms that helped out with the previous one. Anderson Construction will not be one of them. That was my company prior to me getting on the board. So they won't be reaching out to us. Okay.
I never did put that together.
Madam Chair,
Council.
are we going to take we're going to take a 2 or 3 minute break to get everybody back in the room?
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to get everybody back in the room right now, and then you can ask questions of the whole group.
Thank you.
So we'll take a 2-minute break to get everybody back. Because I don't want people. call us council people. Commissioners will ask some questions. Mr. Evans, do you want to explain the process?
Yes, Madam Chair. Just to explain the process as it relates to the Q&A portion of the meeting, is that we request that the council, any questions, or the CRA board, any questions that you may have, if you can pose those questions to both groups and allow for them to share their point of view and perspective. The reason that we want to ensure that the same questions are asked and both entities are provided the opportunity to respond is that this is such a competitive process, and there is opportunities for the process in which we have outlined to be challenged. And so we want to make sure that there is consistency and uniformity. Once all the questions have been asked and the board has no further questions, the closing remarks, we would allow each group 3 minutes in the same order in which they presented to provide closing remarks to the board before you deliberate amongst yourself as to which projects you would like to support.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Mr. McCoy, recognized.
So, Mr. Evans, Interim Director, explain this process that potentially can be challenged, because I didn't know that there was specific, I guess, provisions regulating this other than the discretion of the body.
As it relates to once the board selects which project they want to support, there is an opportunity when they go before the state to receive the credits. There is a window of opportunity for the process to be challenged, because this is such a competitive process that there is opportunities where if even just something as simplistic as the chair's signature doesn't look consistent with previous documents, that can be an item that is challenged. So that's why we're trying to be very consistent and uniformed in the approach that we're taking. So that's the intent behind the items that I've communicated in the process that we've outlined.
Madam Chair.
You're recognized.
Well, I'm at a disadvantage because the pro tem took up all the time in answering
Now
questions.
you can take as much time as you need, Mr. McCoy.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, we'll get to you, Ms. Lanier.
Thank you.
The floor is yours, Mr. McCoy.
Well, thank you. Well, I guess I'm really stuck because I wanted to ask some questions specific of number 2, but I guess it will apply to both. So, Pinnacle, I believe your slide suggested that utilities were included in that market rate analysis. Is that correct?
Yes, in the rents that we have, we're not utilities.
Okay. Would that, can that question be answered by the first?
Why don't we, if I could suggest that we have the first group of presenters use that microphone, and that way we don't have to worry about cleaning the mics quite as much.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Lanier, I hear you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that both groups were available at their own mics, because the questions that I have may apply to both groups.
Yes, they've just moved to their own microphones. And Mr. McCoy has the floor. So, Mr. McCoy.
Thank you. I guess I was waiting on the initial group, the first group to answer.
Yeah, with the Housing Utility Commission, so the way we do it is the tenant pays water, sewer, electric, and their own cable. But they get
That mic is very, very low. I can very rarely hear them.
How about now?
That's better.
Yeah, so the way we do it is the tenant pays their own water and sewer and electric. However, there is an allowance given to them because they're paying their own utilities. So it's sort of a discounted rent. So you start with gross rental rates, and then we give them allowances for water, sewer, and electric. And then there's a net rent that the tenant pays. And the reason we have the tenants pay water and sewer is because it promotes conservation.
Madam Chair, if I can interrupt, I can barely hear them. I don't know if it's the microphone or if it's where they are. I'm not sure.
How about this? Is that better?
To me, that sounds the same.
Oh, excellent.
Oh.
Excellent,
Okay.
excellent.
This one might be tied in, so.
Okay, then.
Excellent.
All right, so I'll repeat. So the way we do it is the tenants pay their own water, sewer, and electric. And we give them an allowance for that off there's what you call a gross rental rate. And then we give them an allowance. They pay their own water, sewer, and electric. And then there's a net rental rate that they pay to us as the owner. And the reason we do it that way is because it promotes conservation with the tenants so that they're not, excessively using water, things like that.
Councilman, if I could respond, that's absolutely correct. And the chart that we showed you, I'm sorry for any misunderstanding, that reflects that chart in our presentation was the net rents, net of this utility allowance that Mr. Larson described. So we agree.
Okay. And while you're there, Representative from Pinnacle, thank you for that clarification. I thought it was very, I was very much inspired by the idea of the 5% rebate of the rent. Where did that come from? How do you arrive at that? Like, is that something that's now trending in the industry because of, more of transitioning from rentals to home ownership? How did you guys come up with that idea?
Well, I actually will give Florida Housing Finance Corporation credit for it because it used to be a mandated thing that they required of all developments until about 2012, I believe, they stopped requiring their 5% rebate. They have a series of what we call in the industry check-the-box resident services you could do, and that was one that Pinnacle, we always used to check when it was among the requirements, but they stopped doing that a number of years back. We have still continued it in the developments where it was mandated, and they even have done it in some that is not, including our development in Tallahassee that I mentioned where it was not required. We opted to do it. What's interesting about that, and I'm glad you asked about it, is during the Great Recession, we had an out-migration out of our properties, and David and I were talking about this before the presentation. Our residents have good credit and they have disposable income, and they took advantage when the housing market crashed, and we wrote a sizable amount of checks for the first-time home buyer rebate program. And we thought it would be a perfect fit here, and that's why we proposed it. Hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
No, we have to ask the same question you have to give them, I believe you have to give them an opportunity to respond.
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, our proposal, and when we sent the council the long form written, is taken directly from the old Florida housing program. So then this was something that, it's correct. They stopped doing it like in 2012, but something that, we thought would fit well here. We know it's a priority for the council, so this would be something good.
Thank you.
I just want to elaborate that on can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I just want to elaborate that for a bit. And this is an old Florida
Keep it
housing
close.
program.
Keep it very close.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay, I want to elaborate a bit on that. This was an existing Florida housing program, but the discussion in-house was, when we got the memo from the city manager's office, they asked us about our home ownership initiatives. And we said, what can we do to meet this threshold? And in those discussions, we said we should set up a program whereby we would set aside a portion of the rent as down payment assistance in the future with these tenants. And then, subsequent to that conversation, someone said, well, Florida Housing had this program about 10 years ago. So that's how we backed into this. So I just want to be clear that we backed into it without really knowing this program had existed, at least from my standpoint. And that's how we got here.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. McCoy?
One last question, and since they're already there. So the HTG group, are there any social programs that's going to be associated, like community-based programs for the development community, such as any kind of parenting skill plans or homeowners or home buyers education programs? Because I see that there's often a trend to kind of address some of the societal disadvantages throughout the community. So are there any plans for those type of social needs?
Yeah, so we do have some standard programs that we offer that was in our PowerPoint. However, we're certainly open to do more if anyone in the community or the council is aware of a good nonprofit that does programs or has any ideas, we'd certainly incorporate it into our program, over and above what we have on our PowerPoint here.
I'd like to add a little bit to that. While we were waiting for the second presentation, we were having discussions about the project and what we'd like to do in the future. And one of our partners said, we do things.
Madam Chair, can I interrupt? I'm so sorry. Because I am doing this virtually, if people could say who they are representing when they answer the question, it would help me out because I'm seeing you guys, but I'm not really seeing you guys. So if you can at least tell us who you are when you answer a question, that could help me out.
We'll do that. Thank you.
My name is Brian Finney. I'm the Vice President of the Housing Trust Group. As I was indicating, we had a quick discussion, and one of the things that we're going to take a look at is one of our local contractors spends dollars to support local athletic programs, local educational programs, or things of that nature, which is more customized. It's more than just a standard fill-out-the-box program. And so we're going to take a strong look at that because that tends to be more focused and more effective. And we do have the resources to make those type of community-based involvement programs to really, especially get our youth in educational and active activities.
Thank you, and we'll hear from Pinnacle Wendover.
Yeah, we think that the resident-based programs are a linchpin of what we're trying to do. And not only, and we talked about this more in our written response than we had a chance to tonight, but all the things we'll do, like parenting skills, home buyer education, financial management, we will offer those to our residents. But as space becomes available, especially once we get out of this COVID world, we will make them available to the broader community on our campus, because we'll have a wonderful facility. So we want to be a resource to the community as well when we can, on a space available basis, do these programs, which we will do very frequently. I want Kevin to talk again about, some of the targeted populations he talked about passionately, particularly with regard to veterans.
Yes, certainly the veterans programs, the outreach, and the social service programs that we offer to veterans' families is we want to put a strong emphasis on. That is really, it's one of the many reasons, but why we have remained so dedicated to the Berkeley Landing site for 5 years now. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but we've had this site under contract now. I've been working with the city for 5 years now to bring this community to fruition. And because of our ongoing relationship with the VA and the close proximity here to the VA hospital, that is why we are so bullish on Berkeley Landing. And I'll just mention this. I think Commissioner Miller Anderson, Commissioner Battelle, I've stood before you guys before. The other commissioners are newer. But we had a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I believe, when the local high school was playing the state championship up in Orlando, we hosted to showcase our property up there. We had 2 or 3 buses of local residents and city commissioners who came toward the property and showcased and saw the resident services that we were offering there. It was warmly received. So I know there is existing support here locally on the ground. There has been for a number of years now. And it's why we have remained so dedicated to seeing this community come to fruition.
Thank you. Finished? Thank you. Ms. Miller Anderson.
I had one question that was actually for them, but the other group can answer it as well, although I think I already got their answer. In regards to the loan, what were the repayment terms? I don't think I saw that in the slide.
We're very flexible. That whatever the city's desire is, we have the ability. The fact of the matter is, this funding is not necessary from a financial standpoint. It's necessary from the standpoint of being competitive at Florida housing. We have to have it, obviously, to be able to apply for Florida housing. After that, it's really up to you guys. But we intend to fully repay it on your terms. And in addition, it does not need to be funded in the near term. This does not need to be funded until the property is placed in service. So this is not something we're looking for next year. You have time to get it into the budget.
Just because I'll be the technocrat here, the local, and this is Tim Wheat with Pinnacle, I'm sorry for not, and that was Kevin Kroll with Wendover speaking. The Florida Housing calls this a local government area of opportunity loan, or grant. As we said, we have no issue with a full repayment loan at terms to be decided by the city. The only term that matters to Florida Housing is that loan disbursement has to be dispersed in full 90 days after the development construction is complete. So if you game it out, but pursuant to the schedule we presented, it might not be until 2023 until you actually have to make the loan. We would probably close, David and I and Kevin would figure out at our initial construction closing, we would have a placeholder for the city's mortgage and note, and you would be acting just as any other lender, and you would have security for your loan in second position behind the primary first mortgage private lender, which would be an institutional lender.
Okay,
Thank you.
Any other group?
Hi, this is Jason Larson, Housing Trust Group. So we're actually proposing a balloon payment in within 15 years of the city funding the loan. One thing that's important to the first mortgage lender is that any loans on the property come due after their loan. So typically they do a 15-year first mortgage, and then the second mortgage is typically the term is 15 years plus 6 months, depending on when that loan is funded. And we could make interest payments. We propose interest-only payments kind of currently as we're operating, so the city could get some return on its money, and we could pay at least a couple percent or something. It would be certainly more than what you're getting on probably your cash deposits.
Okay. Brian Finney, the Housing Trust Group. Bottom line is that we will pay the money back, and the rates and terms are, as we mentioned in our presentation, is negotiable by the city. But we do not want a grant. We want to pay the money back.
So the 15 years is not, that's negotiable still? You're not holding to that? Okay. And I just wanted clarification for the 2525 Broadway. Is that correct? That shows in front of Walgreens.
Yeah.
How is that?
Actually, I think it's 2825.
Okay.
So there's several parcels. A couple of the parcels are addressed, and the 2825, if you go on Google, is the one that shows up actually like where the site is.
Okay, so it's 2825. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
And it's across from the shopping center that used to have, I think it was the Family Dollar.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Jay's building?
Madam Chair?
I'm sorry.
That's it for me. Thank you.
You're talking to me. Mr. McCoy.
I'm sorry, I gotta put on my mask because I want you to see my face.
Madam Chair.
I was just about to ask, is Commissioner Lanier on, because I can assure you, if it comes to any outstanding money that's owed, she's not going to give
Commissioner
anybody.
Lanier, did you hear that?
You are correct.
Commissioner Lanier, would you like to respond to that taunt from?
I just wanted to say that he is absolutely correct. When it comes to money that is owed to the city, the CRA, and the city in general, we would like to have it.
It's an in-joke. Okay, thank you, Mr. McCoy. Are you done? Yes. Thank you. Commissioner?
I had some questions.
Commissioner Lanier, you're recognized.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a couple of questions, and it could be to either of the groups. Both of the groups had excellent presentations. I really, really appreciate the fact that the city manager has made this a competition. We often get, and I would say all the time, get entities that come into the city that is a one-sided event, but this being a competition really has made me take about 2 or 3 pages of notes I will try and not go through all of them, but I wanted to ask with each of the groups, what else financial funding have you guys pursued other than the city's money?
We'll start with Pinnacle Wendover.
Commissioner, it's Tim Wheat with Pinnacle. Thank you for the question. We actually applied to the county for the local government area of opportunity. They had a competition. Berkeley Landing applied. But the county had a preference for funding a project in the Glades, and that's what they wound up doing. They wound up choosing a development in the Glades. So we have sought other sources of funding for this local government area of opportunity loan, which again, as we remind you, allows us to leverage an investment of $23 million, give or take, in housing tax credits. So it's a stepping stone to leveraging equity by getting this designation. Anything to add, Kevin?
I would just add that in terms of all the financing, it is in place. There were term letters that were included in the packages you all received for both the equity partner as well as the lender. So all financing is in place. This is just the last piece of the puzzle.
Thank you.
Hi, Jason Larson, Housing Trust. So we actually did procure some impact fee funding, I guess, exemption funding from the county. So the county has a program they put out every year, and we did apply for this site, and we got about $350,000 from the county in impact fee exemptions. Of course, the 75% of the funding for the development will come from the tax credit award, should we be awarded, and we've got partnerships with Raymond James. We work with a lot, who will be the tax credit purchaser, and we have a funding letter from them. I mean, they'll contribute probably up to $20 million towards the development. And then also Chase Bank would be the construction lender, and First Mortgage lender, and they are the bank that we work with on the Heron Estates, both phase 1 and phase 2. So.
Thank you.
Okay, another question is this. The Pinnacle group said that they were looking at, I don't know if they said 2, when they talked about market rate units. And I wanted to ask the Pinnacle group or any other group about market rate units. I think you said 2, but I really wanted to look at how both groups would look at market rate units and the mix of them in the quote-unquote affordable type of methodology or type of model.
It's Tim Wheat with Pinnacle again. I'll be brief. Yes, we did propose 2 entirely unrestricted market rate units. Those 2 units would be paired with a live-work space, so that those residents would have a ground floor commercial office bay with an interior stairwell to an upper bay. So in addition to those 2 completely rent unrestricted units, we have a mix of income stratification, including units restricted at 80% of the area median income that are what we call near market rate units. And I'll let Kevin take it from here.
Sure, yeah. So as Tim was saying there, this is a true, it's a multi-use development, both commercial and residential, from the aspect of those live-work units. And I'm trying to think what, thanks. Yeah, so we've got 25 units that we consider market rate, at the market rate level, the 80% AMI level. That's that market rate / workforce level. So roughly about over 20% of the project, including those 2 live-work units. Am I leaving anything out in terms of the question?
Truly, the David Deutsch with Pinnacle, the difference between the 80% AMI units and the market rate units are just some of the rules and regulations associated with the program of procuring tax credits. So with the market rate units, we have no restrictions on anything, income or anything else of that nature, as opposed to the 80%, We have income limits, and we have to live within the guidelines as prescribed by Florida Housing, even though the rent differential between the live-work and the 80% units we believe will be de minimis.
Thank you. Do you want to address the issue of market rate?
Sure. Jason Larson with Housing Trust Group. So we approached the market rate units by, in a similar fashion, doing units that are set aside at 80% of the AMI as well as 70% of the AMI. You know, and with those rents getting up on the 80% side on a 3-bedroom up to about $1,827 on a gross basis, and then subtracting out the utility allowance that we discussed, $1,706. And on the 70% side, $1,477. That kind of puts it right in between, you know, let's say a $1,600 rate rent. And so those units, even though they are qualify as affordable, they are effectively market rate. So, and we've got 41 of those units. So, yeah, and these are units that teachers and firefighters could qualify for, and you know, probably, you know, starting policemen. I mean, you know, the salary for an 80% 3-bedroom could go up to like $81,520. So, on a 3-bedroom.
Thank you.
So for both groups, so my question is this: when we're talking about affordable housing, I'm thinking teachers, firefighters, police officers. So I want to be able to ensure that those group of people are able to be a part of this development. And when we say affordable housing, we're not talking about public housing. We're talking about housing that is affordable. But I want to make sure that the teachers, the firefighters, the police officers who work for the city of Riviera Beach, who live in this city, who want to live in this city, are a part of this development. How can you ensure that?
Go ahead, while you're. Go ahead.
Happy to.
Brian Finney, Housing Trust Group. One, Councilperson, yes, this is not public housing. This is not public housing. You're absolutely correct. In terms of incomes, we have income ceilings, and teachers, firemen, and police at the 80% AMIs are within that income ceiling, which is regulated by the state of Florida. So they will be, if they would like to live in our properties, they can apply and they will be eligible to live there.
Just for our edification, could you attach a dollar amount to that 80%?
Yeah,
I think you said it was 60.
Going up to.
Yeah, hi, Jason Larson. So the 80% could go, you know, what they say for a 1-bedroom, $49,200, and then up to $81,520
okay.
for a 3-bedroom.
Thank you.
So.
Commissioner Lanier. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'll
We have to let the we have to let the other Pinnacle win over.
Okay, just one more question. Just one more.
No, sure, Commissioner Lanier, we need to let the other group answer, and then you can have your next.
Okay, can I come back and ask some of the questions because we had
yes,
two.
Yes, the floor is yours. Well, as soon as they finish, the floor
all
is
right, very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
David Deutsch with Pinnacle. I'll be brief. So our whole goal was to accomplish the workforce element, was the reason we did so many 80% units, is because we want to target teachers, firefighters, and those that you are describing, Commissioner. So that is exactly our thinking in terms of developing our strategy for this development.
Thank you. Commissioner Lanier?
Yes, can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Yes, okay. One of the questions is this, and it may be not for the two groups, but for the city manager and the people who put this package together for both groups. I'm looking at a clawback provision. Now, based on the paperwork that has been sent in and that is attached to the agenda item, it appears that groundbreaking or things in terms of development won't happen until 2022. That's 2 years from now, which means it may take 3 to 5 years for a development to happen. I want to know, what is a clawback provision that the city has in terms of if it doesn't happen in a certain amount of time, what happens to our money?
Go ahead. Well, they're ready to answer if you want to let them.
Madam Chair?
This is Kevin with Pinnacle.
I'm sorry.
I think since this is more or less a procedural question, can we allow our attorney to answer that as opposed to the applicant?
Why not?
Yes.
Sure, thank you, Councilman, I'm sorry, Councilman McCoy, thank you for that.
Go ahead.
Yes, the grant/loan is conditioned upon the participants actually getting awarded these funds in the next cycle. So it doesn't go over unless they get in this nice next cycle, unless they're awarded the tax credits, then there is no deal.
And Madam Chair, just to add on to that, the appropriation or the expenditure would not be present until your fiscal year 2022 budget. So the monies would be earmarked and restricted in the event that there is a successful entity that receives it, then that will go forward. If not, it will then just remain as fund balance.
Commissioner Lanier, anything else?
One more thing, and then I'll acquiesce to my other colleagues. One more thing. I wanted to ask both of the groups. Both of you talked about how you're going to help the people who are in these apartments or in this complex or by this complex or whatever the case may be in terms of a resident assistance. How much money are you talking about in terms of financial literacy, in terms of home ownership information, in terms of, because a lot of developers come to the city, they throw out all these figures about, you know, we're going to help the people who were there, and we talked about the 5%, but tell me exactly what are you talking about in terms of funding, in terms of getting people who, guess what, in a year or two, they may not be able to buy the property. They might be able to be even qualified for it. How are you going to ensure that the people who come into this property are able to at least at some point buy a home?
Brian Finney, Housing Trust Group. Thank you, Commissioner. That was a good question. There are two aspects. There were two parts of that question. So let me go with the first one. Resident services. When we do our analysis on the project, we figure out the operating cost of each unit. It may cost $5,000 a year to operate a unit in one of our projects. In that number is also the cost that we incur of resident services. So we build in that cost into our operations. So for all the social services programs that we provide, those are free services out of our operating budget to the tenants. Now, in terms of home ownership, all we can do is make home ownership programs available for our tenants and give them the opportunity to pursue a home if they'd like to, and also enroll them in our down payment assistance program. Their decision to acquire a home is solely their decision. We will support them, but they have to make that decision.
David Deutsch with Pinnacle, Commissioner. Every month when I look at the financial statements of each of our properties, the one line expense that makes me the happiest is how much we spent on down payment assistance every month. And it varies. And right now, we're putting out a lot of money because right now interest rates are very low and our residents are trying to take advantage of this very nice financing that exists in the mortgage world today. So we backstop it with the good faith and credit of Pinnacle, meaning you have to rely on the developer to be upstanding because at the end of the day, we're the ones writing the checks for the down payment assistance and handing it to our residents when they leave our community and go purchase a home. But to me, it is the single most enjoyable expense we incur every month and every year on each of our properties. And the smiles we see from our residents are world class.
Okay, thank you. I'll acquiesce now to my other colleagues. I have a couple of other questions, but I don't want to monopolize the time that we have, so I'll stand down until the end of the questioning session.
Well, stand by as well. I mean, you don't stand down. Go ahead and stand down.
I'm standing by.
Good one. Do you have any other questions, Commissioner McCoy? Commissioner Lawson, any other questions?
I surrender.
That was very good.
Madam Chair, I just had a follow-up question. In terms of reaching out to those teachers and firefighters and all of that, what type of outreach programs would you all be doing to get those people to the table? I do believe there was a project some years ago in Pleasant City where that development was built, I think, for nurses or someone in the medical field, but I don't believe they had a really good turnout. So what would you be doing to attract those people that we're looking to put in there or give an opportunity to?
So first of all, this is going to be a David Deutsch with Pinnacle, excuse me. This is going to be a high-profile development, and so from the outset, we are going to have signage, we are going to have brochures, we're going to have information informing the public as to what our timeline is, when we expect to deliver the units, and what our outreach is going to be. We are going to be very mindful of fair housing, okay, to reach out to everybody and give everybody a fair shot. So we will advertise in local newspapers, we will be online, we will use social media, we will use all kinds of tools that we implement in order for everyone to know exactly when we're going to deliver the units, when we start the lease up. If we feel we're going to have very strong demand and be outstripped in terms of the number of units versus the demand, what we've gone to in the past is a lottery type situation, so that we're very fair and very equitable and mindful of fair housing. But in terms of just outreach, we can go to local nonprofits, we will advertise, we will do social media, all the things that you would normally expect of a community to announce the timeline for lease up and give everybody an opportunity to participate.
Okay, thank you. The other group?
Sorry, Kevin with Pinnacle Wendover as well. And in terms of the direct outreach we do, we coordinate directly with the school boards, with the police firefighters unions, with the hospital organizations, doctors' offices. So we are doing direct outreach within their offices of all these different groups to target these potential residents.
Brian Finney, the Housing Trust Group, and just to reiterate what they just discussed, the Fair Housing Guidelines provide guidelines to us as to how we post and notice that our apartments are available. However, because we have Heron Estates Senior and because we're going to have Heron Estates Family, we have a full sales office in the city of Riviera Beach. And that office is going to reach out to churches, going to reach out to the school board, going to reach out to nonprofit organizations, and going to reach out to the networks that we already have. We have one building that's completely filled, and we have another building. As soon as we announce it next week, I'll give it a month, and we'll have over 100 applications for 79 units, and that's just the beginning. So we have an existing network here, and we will move forward aggressively.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question for both teams. The home ownership program, as you guys know, is very important to us. Local participation, home ownership. Who manages and operates the home ownership program within the organization? Is it the actual owner or the property management company? And in addition to that, how do we guarantee the home ownership is going to actually apply to our residents, allowing for them to purchase here in our community?
HTG's fiscal department will manage the assets of the home ownership program. And we can guarantee that residents of Riviera Beach will participate in the program because the program would be limited to residents in our project. And our project is in Riviera Beach. So I want to make sure I'm asking your question.
Well, do they have to purchase in Riviera Beach?
No.
No, they do not have to purchase because I'm using federal money and I cannot restrict them to just Riviera Beach.
Okay. Same question.
I want to be careful. David Deutsch, Pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
We are offering this program not through the Florida Housing checking the box requirement.
Right.
So as such, what we proffered to you all, okay, was that the down payment assistance program would be for purchase of Riviera Beach homes. Now, we can broaden that reach. I don't want to contradict Mr. Finney because maybe he knows something I don't know. But because this is a self-imposed program and not involving federal tax credits, but just something that we're offering as a resident program out of our own proceeds, our own dollars, we think we have the flexibility to cater the program to make it a local program as opposed to something broader. Now, if you all deem that we should broaden it and allow the down payment assistance for our first-time home buyer program to be for folks beyond the city limits of Riviera Beach, we would do that. Normally, we have a program where we do not restrict the down payment assistance proceeds to a specific area, but we know you all are very pro Riviera Beach for obvious reasons, and as such, we are willing to cater our program to something similar.
And that was my question, because I had a different answer from both organizations. That's why I was asking, is the funds, or are the funds going to be restrictive to home ownership here in the city? And that's why I just wanted some clarity with that question as well.
I have a
So
follow-up,
this,
if I can.
please go ahead.
I have a follow-up to that just while we're on the topic of that program. I'd like to know the history. You've already touched on it. Your history in operating that kind of a homeowner, the 5% program.
HCG's history or my history?
The organization's history.
So, I'm the former director of the Miami-Dade County Office of Community Economic Development, and OCD gives out about $40 million a year for home ownership programs in Miami-Dade County. And I'm the former president and CEO of the Camden Empowerment Zone, New Jersey. I can go on and on and on. We have a history of, step back. This program that we're talking about, which was from Florida Housing, from what I understand, hasn't been active for over the last 10 years. So when we came up with the program, it was based on our internal experiences of our activities before in the Overtown section, in Camden, New Jersey, and some things in New York that we've done in the past. So again, answer to your question, it's very limited. But let me get myself in real trouble here. I'm going to get myself in real trouble here, and I'm going to be honest with you. Our initiative is about economic freedom. And if we sit with a tenant and we say that we will match the money set aside for your home ownership program, that tenant has the right to buy wherever he or she wants to. I don't want, it always happens in our communities that we get restricted and people take freedoms away from us. We're not doing that. If you put your money aside and we match it, you have the right to spend your money wherever you feel you need to spend your money. And that's a principle that we will go down with, but I think it's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Lawson?
Yes. Funding. Mr. Evans, Mr. Jonathan Evans, how can we award both of these firms and get this going? Because this mandate is restricting us to two great organizations. So what can we do over the next couple of years? Because this is something that is a tough decision for us, because like I told both organizations, we are very appreciative for these presentations. You guys have done phenomenal jobs, and it shows that we're adamant about moving forward, and we're committed to this, and I'm excited that you guys even came to us. So, Mr. Evans, what can we do?
We as staff had the same challenge, hence why we put forth the program that we went through today, because it was so challenging to effectively try to weigh out which project would be the superior project. Both projects, and I have shared it with both teams, I'd love to have them both. And so
whomever moves forward in this process, certainly we're going to support them and want them to be successful. But I would hope that in the event that one of the firms is not successful in this process, that there is additional conversations that can ensue to see what the CRA and the city can do collectively to work together with regards to a development opportunity, because it is such a critical need in our community that we don't want to let folks that are here willing and committed to seeing economic redevelopment and revitalization in our community occur to walk away. So we certainly will enter into other conversations with the other firm, to look at what other options and alternatives are available to effectuate economic development and growth within the corridor. Unfortunately, this program that both entities are pursuing is so challenging, and it takes the best of the best, and that's what you saw this evening. 2 strong proposals. We posed very challenging questions. They answered those questions in a short amount of time, and we wanted to make sure all the things that were articulated by the board were addressed as part of the presentations, and you saw that this evening. So I guess to make a long story short, we're going to have to do some real soul searching over the next couple of days to see what opportunities or what initiatives that we can spin up to help facilitate in some form or some fashion, because we don't want to lose the opportunity. And I think we're excited about the process and excited to work with whomever is selected. But as it relates to the process that they have to go through, it's one of those situations that people see the value in our community, which is exciting, and they're willing to work with this board and staff, and so that says something for your leadership, and people know that Riviera Beach is really open for business, and they're willing to put $30+ million. You've got $60 million worth of projects that are in front of you this evening, and you have to make a decision on which one that you like to move forward, and that's a good place to be, and that's a long road that we all have traveled to get to this point. So we'll do what we can on our side, but the decision resides with the board this evening.
Thank you. I do have one.
Chair?
I was going to ask.
Chair?
Go ahead, Commissioner Lanier. You have the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and Mr. Evans is absolutely right. This is a competition, and it is up to the commission to make this decision about which of the competitors that we want to go with. I want to make sure that it is understood that it is a competition. There were 2 proposals that were presented tonight, and they were excellent, both of them. And this is what I like to see for the city of Riviera Beach: competition, that someone and some people can come to the city and say that this is what we have to offer, and we as a council can make a decision. I can appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Thank you, thank you, Commissioner Lanier. I have one final question. Maybe it's not the final. Somebody else might have a final. If you are not selected this evening, what are your plans for your project? What would you like to see happen going forward if you're not selected?
Again, Brian Finney with the Housing Trust Group. As I mentioned earlier, our project is more than just sticks and bricks. Our project is about a local business initiative. With the 9% tax credit program, it gives us the financial liquidity to embrace more undercapitalized local contractors and to bring them into the project. So for us, we really need this funding facility to make our whole plan work, which is more than just sticks and bricks. Now, we're the Housing Trust Group. We love this project. We will never give up on trying to develop this project. I don't know how we're going to do it, but that's what we do. But again, sticks and bricks is not the priority of this project. It's the inclusiveness that's the most important aspect of it.
Okay, thanks.
hope I answered your question. I'm not sure I did.
I'm not sure you did either, but.
All right, so before the 9%,
Madam Chair,
before the
stand by.
9%,
Stand by, stand by,
the
stand by.
project will change dramatically if we have to go to another facility, and then we have to figure out how you do that. And at this point in time, I just don't know. The project will
But it's not
move
going to
forward.
die. You'll find some way to.
I'm sure both projects will not die. I'm
Okay.
sure both developers will find a way I mean, that's what we do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Kroll with Pinnacle Wendover. Both of these developments are in the same predicaments. You do have to have the 9% tax credit award to make them feasible. And that is for the foreseeable future. It's going to be a number of years before either of these two sites are eligible for 9% tax credits again, at least probably 4 or 5 years, as it's determined by HUD and what they call the qualified census tracts. And the fact of the matter is, this is not in the qualified census tract anymore going forward. That being said, we've been working on this site now for 5 years, as I've said. We've been at the mercy of a landowner for those 5 years who's been working with us. I can't say moving forward what his intentions are, but it is our intention to see this project through one way or the other eventually. I hope not to be standing here 5 years from now still working on it, but we still absolutely would invite your invitation to collaborate on it. But for the foreseeable future, there is nothing else that's really possible without the 9% tax credits this year.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Mr. Anderson.
With Pinnacle, I know you say you were here about 5 years ago, and I believe that is the same property that you were here for, asking for before. Yeah. So you weren't able to move forward when you didn't get it before. So if that happens again, you won't be able to.
Well, actually, the reason we
because let me just say this: both of these projects are in my district, and so it would be very nice if we could see something happen. And I was excited when we had that going on. We thought may have happened. So
right.
that was, and then it just disappeared. So
yes.
And now we're here again.
And I gave you my word then that I would keep working on it, and I will always keep that word. We've only had this award, the Local Government Area Opportunity Funding Award, from the city once before. In 2017, I believe it was. It just so happened that year that the city also awarded that award to HTG, what became the Heron Estates property. And so it came down to, as it happened, the city did not know that they were giving 2 awards that year. It went to the state level. HTG had a higher lottery ball number, so they were selected as the winner. The state was about to rule us both ineligible because technically one municipality cannot give the same award to 2 different developments. And we said, no, we don't want that to happen. Let's let the Housing Authority and HTG move forward. We don't want the city to be left with nothing here. So we're willing to take a step back. We want to see something come to fruition at Riviera Beach, and we're glad that community has come to fruition. Now I guess we're just hoping for karma to kind of be on our side.
Madam Chair?
If he wants to respond some kind of way.
Excuse me. Wow. How do I respond to that?
Stand by.
Stand by.
So,
or even stand down.
You're going to milk that now.
We in the spirit of cooperation, we agree with everything you just said, except there were a couple of some minor nuances that are a little bit different. In that process, both of our applications were deemed ineligible by Florida Housing. All right. So, but what we did was we did 2 applications. We applied for a 4% sale and a 9%. And we were fortunate to win the 4% award. So I just want to make the record clear, and that's why we won, because we were aggressive. We were very aggressive. We are aggressive in our efforts to get our projects funded. So I just want to say that for the record.
Thank you. Are we good to go?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say one thing. I like both of the projects sincerely, because both of them are going to help the Riviera Beach go to another level. But I would like to say that one thing that I did notice with the Pinnacle Group is that they deferred almost $2 million in developer fees versus the $500 from HTC. Now, for whatever it's worth, I just wanted to put that out there. But I like both proposals, but I did recognize that piece for Pinnacle.
Thank you. Commissioner Miller-Anderson, anything else? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, if I may, if you can provide both groups 3 minutes for closing remarks.
Oh, yes, thank you, I forgot.
And we would start with the group that presented first, which is HTG.
Thank you.
First of all, Brian Finney, HTG. I'd like to thank the council for giving us the opportunity to come here and present tonight. We've worked on this proposal for quite a while, and this has been an interesting process and a good process, and we thank you for that opportunity. I know when it's time to drop the mic, and now's a good time for me to drop the mic, and I'll give it to Ron Davis for him to summarize as we step to the side.
Thank you, Brian. I'm Ron Davis of Mosnar Group, the local minority development partner with HTG, and also a local person who has worked in this community for a number of years. I think while I admire the effort of Pinnacle and their team, I think there are stark differences between the proposals, away from the fact of the sticks and bricks as Brian described. I think that the fact that HTG Mosnar Group, even as private business persons, put on their policy hats, because both Brian and I are former black city managers in the state, and came forth to your city, this city, our city, and met with City Manager Jonathan Evans with a local initiative contractor proposal, which was not on the table, which has not been on the table, but the aspects of it has always been mentioned in part by various members of council as something they were trying to do and grappling to do with how you accentuate and elevate local minority contractors. We put a policy program in writing and put it on the table, discussed it with the manager, hashed it out, reviewed it, improved it, then discussed it with you, and that's how we got to where we are. Where we are now is about local contractors. Anybody can build this project, but everybody is not put forth the commitment that we put forth to bring in a joint venture with a local prime contractor who is a local minority, a local African American that lives here in Riviera Beach. We have also put forth our commitment to bring from our project at Heron Estates local subcontractors who are also residents of Riviera Beach, minority. That demonstrates a commitment that no one has put on the table in this city, not before tonight and not even tonight. So I ask that you consider that. We have been here, we have demonstrated our commitment to this community. We've already invested over $40 million in this community in prior projects, and we're coming to the table now with another $30 million. So you're not dealing with strangers. We have done this. We have worked with you, and we have delivered for you. And I think we have earned your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Tim Wheat with Pinnacle. First of all, I want to say that I've been doing community development, started in the public sector, then in the nonprofit sector and in the private sector for 35 years. And I have to tell you how refreshing it is to come and have a discussion about high-minded ideas and doing business and doing it with civility and with facts and with information. That is something that is lacking in our discourse in this country nowadays, and I applaud each of you individually and the city manager and the staff at the CRA and the city for organizing such a fantastic process that allowed both of us to put all of our cards on the table in a very organized fashion to go after what is very competitive money. And I know that I speak for Wendover and Mr. Wolf and Kevin and the team at Wendover, and for David and the partners at Pinnacle, and for Dwight and Joe and everyone at D. Stevenson Construction, where we give you our heartfelt thanks and gratitude. And we're humbled by the opportunity to have participated. The difference maker is that Riviera Beach has a bright future. I live not very far from here, and I drive by this site every day on my way to work from where I live. And the day has come now because of your leadership to create place-making communities so people like me aren't just driving by, that people are stopping, that they're enjoying, that they're living, that they're investing, and that they're growing your community, okay? And with Berkeley Landing, we're going to create a place-making development that not only invests in the city, but invests in its citizens and invests in our residents, which is your most precious resource. And we've all been doing this a long time. And yes, it's our debut here as Pinnacle, Wendover, and D. Stevenson as a team. But we have a proven track record of revitalizing communities, of creating transit development. You know, no one in the early 2000s would bother going to Wynwood neighborhood in Miami. It was a wasteland. And then Pinnacle came and built Pinnacle View. And it changed the dynamics of that community. And affordable housing development was the first stepping stone to greater things. And we're asking you tonight to give us that opportunity to invest in your community in a way that will be placemaking, change-making, dynamic, and culturally significant, with public art and public plazas where people will enjoy. And I think that day has come. And I hope that you'll choose our team, because our approach on human services, on construction services, on home ownership is superior. And I thank you for your time. We're grateful.
Thank you. Well, we need to have a motion, and that motion could be made by any of you to select one team or the other, and then we'll vote on that. And if that team is successful, then we're done for the night. If it's not successful, then someone will have to make a motion that the other team be selected. Yes?
Yes, Madam Chair, and after you conclude with your vote and we read of course, the title of the resolution with the entity and the address, and then that resolution is ultimately passed, then we, of course, recess and convene as the City Council to effectuate the same.
Right. So would someone care to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion, and even though both of these entities, they are both representative of what we're trying to see in the city of Riviera Beach. I think that HTC said it best when they said that, you know, people said, no, we're not going to do business with the city of Riviera Beach. It is too much confusion. It is too much going on over there. So I really want to be able to move forward with these entities. And I just want to make a motion to have Pinnacle as the developer for this project.
Would someone care to second that motion? I'll pass the gavel and second the motion. I second.
Questions? Mr. Chair. Question. So I was actually gonna try to get some clarification from our interim director and perhaps even our attorney about the logistics of what we're being asked to do as far as our role as commissioners, but where ultimately does the money come from when the commitment is fulfilled? Is it going to be CRA dollars or city dollars?
The resolution before you says that it would be a effort that through the city of Riviera Beach that the monies would be remitted. As it relates to the entity that would be providing the funding, the grant or the loan, it would be my recommendation that the monies do come from the CRA, as the TIF, the increase to the TIF is substantial. Currently, as it relates to those two properties, the city of Riviera Beach collects about $15,000 in ad valorem revenue. If those developments go online, the revenue that would be experienced by the CRA would roughly be about $250,000 annually, where the city would still receive the $15,000. So it would be the recommendation of staff that effectively the contribution be appropriated as part of the CRA budget once that time does come.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion's been made, properly second. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy?
No.
Commissioner Miller Anderson?
No.
Vice Chair Lawson?
Yes.
Chair Botel?
Yes.
That motion carries with Commissioner Miller Anderson and Commissioner McCoy dissenting.
Thank you. Thank you. We've made our decision, Mr. Evans.
Madam Chair, at this time, what staff will do is if you can give us about 30 seconds, we can write in the information into the resolution and read the title into the record.
Walter will take a brief break. That was a very
We gotta do it before 10 o'clock.
Now you seeing Haygood outside of the den. Yeah, it's done, yeah.
Ready, Walter? Oh,
Oh, she's after. After Haygood, she'll take it spot, yeah.
okay.
We're doing the CRA, yeah.
We are back in session, thank you.
Yeah.
What?
We gotta pass the resolution. CRA.
Yeah, don't leave. You can't leave.
Yeah. All right.
Is the clerk going to read the resolution?
Whenever you're ready, Madam Chair,
Yes.
call it order.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the resolution?
A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Riviera Beach Community Redevelopment Agency finding that the Berkeley Landing project located at 3100 and 3124 Broadway is consistent with the adopted community redevelopment plan, approving the contribution in conjunction with the City of Riviera Beach to be used as a local contribution and loan in the amount of $640,000, local match in support of an application for low-income housing tax credits to support the project, authorizing the chairman and executive director to execute the agreement with the City of Riviera Beach for the contribution for the purpose of the local match, providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the motion. Could you, she please repeat that?
The motion restated the original motion, but it included the names of the Pinnacle Wendover developers.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy?
No.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lawson?
Yes.
Chair Botel?
Yes.
That motion carries with Commissioner McCoy dissenting.
So, I mean, if we just really basically redid the same thing, I mean.
Yeah, now we have to do it
should we
again.
had- no, Well, I guess my question was, and this is to the gentlewoman from the second district, I mean, do we change our vote now that we just included the name in the title? Is that what I understood that just happened?
For me, you're asking about my
Yeah,
vote?
I mean, help me understand what was significant about us reading the resolution is basically restating our same position that we've already taken, correct?
For me, no, it wasn't, because there's only one person we're doing now. Before, there was two. So my vote changed because that's the only one we have in front of us.
I
And there's a
thought the
resolution.
purpose of her reading the resolution was codifying the action that we just did so that there's a formal vote, there's a formal resolution. Am I correct?
Mr. Evans, you want to explain that?
No, Councilman. The intent was for the board to effectively select which project they wanted to move forward, and that's why the resolution was proffered with blanks, because once the board did select the entity, then we would fill in the blanks, which we did, and then bring the resolution with the firm represented in the resolution for the purposes of effectuating the desires of the board.
Okay. I don't, I sometimes have a very difficult time in understanding this. This is why I ask so many questions. Clearly that resolution wasn't laid out to us, nor was it in the backup documentation. So I just really understood.
It was in there. We had it. It was on the backup. They had
Well, I'm
blanks.
sorry, I got the paper copy, but it clearly only said,
They were blanks. It just didn't have the name in it.
F.
No, yeah, it was in there, yes, it was.
Okay, so, I thought we were just basically restating it, so I guess it is what it is. The record is, it still moves forward, so
In
thank
any
you.
case, we're done with our business for this evening, in this meeting, and we're going to.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
We're going to adjourn. So could we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn meeting?
A second?
Did we have any comment cards or anything, or what was this?
Any
Was it-
comment
was it
card?
a meeting, right?
Yeah, it was a
She
meeting.
said no public comment.
So none at all,
No,
or
we have
anything?
no public comments.
No comment cards.
Oh.
Oh, did someone second
So
the motion?
moved.
Thank you.
Adjourn.
Madam Clerk?
Somebody second?
Commissioner Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner McCoy?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Vice Chair Lawson?
Yes.
Chair Botel?
Yes, this meeting is adjourned.